Chapter 593. Standing at the door, it was obvious that Kitten, who had just returned, was carrying a backpack on her back. However, she cast an extremely sharp gaze in front of her, and a trace of hostility faintly appeared on her doll-like delicate face. Under Kitten's sharp gaze, Isha twisted her body uneasily. She didn't know what to do with her slender hands. One moment, she was clutching her clothes, and the next moment, she was clutching them tightly together. She appeared to be very flustered, and she cast a pleading gaze at Noah. Almost at the same time, the kitten's sharp eyes also turned to Noah. "What's going on?" From the kitten's low tone, Noah heard a hint of displeasure and confusion. There was no doubt that the kitten seemed to have a very serious hostility towards Isha, who appeared in Noah's house. But that wasn't anything strange. Just like the church, which believed in God, regarded the devil as a target that must be eradicated, the devil naturally regarded the church as an enemy. Because she didn't know what happened to Isha, the kitten didn't know that Isha was no longer a member of the church. However, the kitten could still recognize the nun's outfit that Isha was wearing. Therefore, the kitten regarded Isha as a member of the church. Of course, even if it was explained clearly, the kitten's hostility was probably still there. After all, Isha, who was expelled by the church, was still relying on the fallen angel until now. And for the devil, the fallen angel was also an enemy. In other words, in the kitten's opinion, the sudden appearance in her house? No matter how he looked at it, Aisha did not look like one of them anymore. It was understandable for her to have this reaction. "Okay, kitten, put down your hostility first." Noah had no choice but to say so. "From today onwards, Isha will also live with us. You have to get along well." My name is Aisha Aljet." Isha reacted and quickly bowed. "Please take care of me." In the face of Isha's bow, the kitten was silent. Her beautiful eyebrows were obviously wrinkled together, telling others how complicated her mood was. After a while, the kitten looked at Noah closely. "Teacher, are you planning to betray us?" "You're wrong, kitten." Looking at the kitten's serious expression, Noah knew that he would not be forgiven for saying perfunctory words. He closed his eyes and then suddenly opened them. "I've said from the beginning, I'm just an ordinary teacher working in the Horse King Academy. So I'm not with the angels and fallen angels. And I'm also not a companion of you devils. I hope you don't forget that." As soon as he said this, the kitten's emotionless face slightly changed. For Kitten, who never showed her emotions on her face, her reaction was enough to see how much her heart was shaken by Noah's words. However, what Noah said was not wrong. From the very beginning, Noah had said that he was just an ordinary teacher who was going to take up a post in Chariot King Academy. He had no power behind him, nor did he have anyone to back him up. He was completely innocent and had no connections with anyone. That was why Leah was not worried about letting Noah stay in Horse King Academy. However, the kitten seemed to have unknowingly taken Noah as one of her own. In fact, it was not just the kitten. Even Leah was starting to let down her guard against Noah, and chose to trust Noah. However, trust was one thing, and choosing a side was another. Noah was just an ordinary human. Even if he was close to the Jamanli's kin, it did not mean that he was completely on the demon's side. This was something that had to be made clear. Otherwise, there was no telling when Leah and her party would feel betrayed because Noah would have a good relationship with another angel or fallen angel in the future if they categorized Noah as their comrade without permission. Demons, angels, and fallen angels. These three factions can fight however they want. It has nothing to do with me. Noah made it clear almost ruthlessly. "I'm on good terms with you demons now, and it's fine if you treat me as a companion. I quite like being with you, but if you restrict me from interacting with your enemies because of that, wouldn't that be too much?" The kitten fell silent again. That was because he finally understood how excessive his statement of betrayal was. "Kitten, please remember that I don't belong to any faction. I just have a good relationship with the Jamanli's kin." Seeing the kitten's silence, Noah sighed. "You are my friends. If you are hurt by anyone, I definitely don't mind getting justice for you. But that's only because of the relationship between you and me, not the relationship between me and the demons. Aisha is also my friend, and she won't hurt you. So why can't I interact with her? Why can't I let her stay with me? Why is being with her betraying you? After a series of rhetorical questions, Kitten was at a loss for words. In short, come in first. Noah also realized that it was too realistic to continue. He shook his head and waved at the kitten. As a cohabitant who is going to live together in the future, you should first understand the reason why Aisha is here before making a judgment. Hearing this, the kitten, who had been at a loss for words, raised her head. Her big watery eyes flashed with relief. After glancing at Aisha, who was looking at Noah emotionally, she nodded and walked into the room. I'm sorry. 10 minutes later, the kitten, who had learned all about Aisha's past from Noah, lowered her head to Aisha and apologized. I didn't know that you had left the angels and fallen angels for such a reason. I'm really sorry for being hostile to you. No, it's okay. Aisha shook her head quickly, then as if praying, she clasped her hands in front of her chest, showing a gentle smile like the Holy Mother. I have a new place now, and I'm no longer a person who is not favored by the Lord. Please raise your head and get along with me. The kitten nodded heavily. I will get along well with Aisha. Kitten-chan. Aisha was extremely touched, and Noah couldn't help but feel a little exasperated. Wasn't this girl a little too naive and innocent? He didn't think about whether the kitten's words were from the bottom of her heart. How could she be so touched? Of course, the kitten's words were completely from the bottom of her heart. Noah could guarantee this. Thinking of this, Noah suddenly remembered. By the way, Aisha, you said that you have the power to heal everything. What kind of power is that? Leah said that in this world, there were basically only 3 types of people who had power that humans could not possess. One was the holder of the sacred gear, one was the mage, and the other was the exorcist. And other than these 3 types of humans, the rest of the humans generally did not have special powers. That's right, under normal circumstances. In that case, was Aisha an exceptional human with special powers that exceeded the above 3 types of humans? Noah was quite curious about this. However, the power that Aisha displayed next surprised Noah and the kitten. That, Mr. Noah, would you like to take a look? Aisha once again clasped her hands in front of her, as if she was praying. The next moment, on the fingers of Aisha's clasped hands, a pair of rings that emitted a soft green light suddenly flashed. That's... Noah was surprised. Aisha. Even the kitten looked at Aisha in a daze, and said in surprise, Are you a holder of the sacred gear? Aisha nodded repeatedly, making Noah's heart skip a beat, and he asked, Aisha, you said before that after being expelled by the church, you sought refuge with the fallen angels, right? Yes. Yes. Aisha was startled and then nodded. Seeing this, Noah immediately asked, Then, did you seek refuge with the fallen angels yourself? Or did the fallen angels find you themselves? No, I didn't seek refuge on my own accord, Aisha said with some confusion. I met the organization of lost exorcists after I was expelled, and then I was introduced to the fallen angels. Noah's eyes narrowed slightly, and he began to ponder in his heart. It seemed that Aisha's matter would not end so easily. Chapter 594. Late at night. In the dark room, Aisha and the kitten slept together on the bed that should have belonged to Noah. They breathed regularly, closed their eyes, and fell asleep. Noah was lying on the bed on the floor, and his eyes were also closed, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. However, at a certain moment, Noah suddenly opened his eyes without the slightest warning. His dark eyes, deeper than the moonlight, flashed a light in the dim space. He slowly got up and put on his clothes. Just as Noah was about to walk in the direction of the door, a deliberately suppressed voice sounded slightly. Teacher. Noah stopped, turned his head, and looked in the direction of the bed. The kitten, who was wearing coffee-colored pajamas with a picture of a cat on the chest, had woken up and was looking straight at Noah. Are you going out? Noah nodded with a smile and put on the coat in his hand. Go out and deal with the annoying rats. The kitten nodded without any surprise. Do you need my help? No need. Noah stepped forward, came to the bed, stretched out his hand, gently touched the kitten's head, and said softly, You stay here and protect Aisha. If it was a week ago, The kitten would have slapped Noah's hand away when he made such an intimate gesture. However, in the past week, the kitten often got into Noah's bed when she was in a daze. Unknowingly, she no longer rejected Noah's touch. It was like a cat who was wary of humans was gradually tamed and began to show a docile side to her master. Therefore, under Noah's touch, the kitten's face collapsed little by little. Although she did not show an expression of enjoyment, she was indeed very docile. Then please hurry up and get rid of those rats that have irritating malice and wake up people who are sleeping soundly. Since even the cat who specializes in catching rats asked me to do so, of course, I will obey. Noah suddenly smiled and waved his hand. Then I will be back. Leaving these words behind, Noah gently opened the door under Kitten's gaze and walked out. Then he closed the door behind him, returning the dark room to silence once again. The dark night continued on. However, in this dark night, there was something even darker than the surrounding darkness. They were like the wings of a crow, completely black in color. Several people with such a pair of wings flew from the night sky at high speed, flapping the pair of black wings, like dark elves who came out to play at night, slowly landing on the street in front of an apartment below. Not long after, a group of 4 people with black wings on their backs came to the front of the apartment and floated in the air. It was a group of 1 man and 3 women. This group not only floated in the air in front of the apartment, but also seemed to be in order to distinguish each other's position. At the front of the group, it was obvious that the leader of the group was a girl with long black hair and a voluptuous figure. Hey Caravana, is Isha really here? Yes, Liney-sama. A big sister with a very serious appearance and a better figure than the former answered. The trace of aura ends here, so Isha should be here. But isn't this the place where that useless guy Fred was heavily injured? The leader named Liney-sama held one side of her face, as if she was lying on an invisible bed, and very leisurely continued to ask. I remember, it was a human? A mere human. Only that useless guy Fred would be beaten to the point of running back. Liney-sama, you don't have to mind. A lowly with 2 golden ponytails, who looked to be around 13 or 14 years old, said with a playful tone as if she was making fun of something. That kind of trash. Liney-sama doesn't need to make a move. As long as I Middlet am here, he can forget about touching Liney-sama. There is also me Donathik. The one who spoke with a deep voice was an uncle wearing a thick overcoat and a round top hat. Leave the matter of the battle to us. Liney-sama only needs to continue the preparations for the ritual afterwards. Hearing the word ritual, the fallen angel named Liney-sama immediately laughed as if she was intoxicated. That's right. The most important thing is not a human, nor is it that useless priest, nor is it Aisha. I just need to get the sacred gear in her body, the power called Twilight Healing, that can heal everything, and that will be enough. That's right. Middlet nodded repeatedly in agreement. As long as we can successfully use the ritual to extract the sacred gear from the nun's body and transplant it into our body, with that kind of healing ability, Liney-sama will definitely be put in an important position by the higher-ups. At that time, Liney-sama's position among the fallen angels will also sharply rise. Caravana echoed. And we can also rise to the top of the fallen angels. Perhaps Liney-sama can also obtain the approval of Sir Governor. Donathik once again spat out deep words. As long as Liney-sama is favored by Sir Governor, then Liney-sama's position among the fallen angels will definitely rise. Hearing that, the intoxicated expression on Liney-sama's face became more and more intense, as if she was enjoying the flattery of her subordinates. And that appearance also admitted that Liney-sama's wishful thinking was exactly the same as what her 3 subordinates said. Unfortunately, these fallen angels didn't know. Their conversation had already been heard by the 5th person present. The next moment, such a leisurely voice drilled into the ears of everyone present. So that's how it is. When I heard that Aisha was invited to join the Fallen Angel organization, I suspected that this matter was not that simple. I originally thought that it was just the fallen angels who fancied Aisha's ability and found her. I didn't expect there to be such an inside story. Should I thank you for saying it yourself? Caravana, Middlet, and Donathik were suddenly shocked. The intoxicated expression on Liney-sama's face also disappeared. She raised her eyes and looked at the source of the voice. Yo fallen angels, hello. Saying such a sentence, Noah sat on the railing at the front of the apartment's rooftop. With one foot still propped on it, he bent his knees in front of him. As if meeting an old friend, he stretched out his hand and greeted the group of fallen angels led by Liney-sama. This is the first time we've met each other, and it will also be the last time we meet, so I'll say hello to you. The corners of Liney-sama's mouth suddenly rose slowly, forming a somewhat cruel and cold arc. Who are you? This question doesn't seem to need to be asked. You just need to know that you are the human who defeated Fred, right? Yes, as long as you know this level of information, there is no need to ask about the name, and there is no need to know. Noah spread his hands and smiled faintly. Because I don't want you to keep thinking about me after you die, and I don't have the time to keep remembering the names of some low-level members of the fallen angel. These words directly angered all the fallen angels present, including Liney-sama. Even if their attitude was high, the 4 people here were indeed just low-level members of the fallen angel. Therefore, Liney-sama wanted to get Aisha's sacred gear and climb to the top of the fallen angel. Being exposed like this, how could the fallen angels not be angry? TSK, you really dare to say it? Middle shouted loudly. A trifling human, don't think that just because you defeated a useless exorcist, you can put pressure on us. Humans are such creatures. Caravana's voice also carried a trace of anger. Just because you have a little ability, you think so highly of yourself, really disgusting. No matter what, he is just a human. Donasic pressed his hand on his hat and coldly said, let's quickly deal with him and forget about it. Liney-sama was even more direct. Her expression was languid and fierce as she raised her hand. Kill him. Yes. The 3 fallen angels immediately rushed toward Noah. Looking at the 3 fallen angels, Noah raised his head with a smile on his face. That smile was unusually cold. Chapter 595. Like missiles falling from the sky, the 3 fallen angels named Caravana, Middlet, and Donathic seemed to want to surround Noah, who was leisurely sitting on the railing of the rooftop of the apartment, without giving him the slightest chance of survival. They bypassed the 3 perfect trajectories and flew down. Hum. In the sound of the air vibrating in unison, light particles suddenly condensed in the hands of the 3 fallen angels shooting in the direction of Noah, forming a rough-looking spear. It was a spear composed of light. Moreover, it was not the kind of spear used in close combat, but more like a javelin used for throwing. Holding such a spear of light, the 3 fallen angels suddenly stopped flying. They immediately raised the spear of light in their hands high above their heads, and threw it in the direction of Noah. Whoosh! The 3 extremely powerful spears of light cut through the air, causing a sharp sound to resound in the space in unison. They were like meteors falling from the sky, shooting in front of Noah. Facing the 3 dazzling spears of light, Noah's figure didn't even move. In the eyes of Caravana, Middlet, and Donathic, it was like Noah had no way to capture the trajectory of the spears of light. He couldn't react at all. Suddenly, a mocking expression appeared on the faces of the 3 fallen angels. However, in the next second, when the 3 dazzling spears of light mercilessly fell on Noah's body, the mocking expression on the faces of the 3 fallen angels completely froze. Bang bang bang. Like fireworks that were suddenly detonated, the 3 sharp spears of light fell on Noah's body. Not only were they unable to leave the slightest trace on his mortal body, but they also seemed to have hit something extremely solid. They directly exploded, scattering light all over the sky. Caravana, Middlet, and Donathic's expressions changed dramatically. What dash? Seeing this scene with her own eyes, Laneri, who was still floating in the air like lying on an invisible bed, suddenly got up. Her pair of eyes suddenly widened, and she screamed. Impossible! Impossible! Noah, who was sitting on the balcony railing of the apartment building, smiled indifferently. These are your last words? It's quite concise, isn't it? After speaking, Noah still didn't move, but a burst of terrifying magic power suddenly burst out from his body like a wave, spreading in all directions. In the next moment, around Noah's body, A gorgeous magic array quickly rotated and emerged from the space. It was like a turret, aiming at the three fallen angels in the air, Calavana, Middlet and Donathik. Seeing that it's rare for you to perform a standard throwing kung fu, although it's a bit boring, I'll return a magic cannon. Under the shocked gazes of the three fallen angels, Noah sneered coldly. Don't worry, I won't use my full strength. After speaking, the gorgeous magic arrays that covered the space around Noah suddenly flashed with a faint light. In the vibration of the air, they gathered the magic power that rose from Noah's body. Then, a beam of magic power soared into the sky and burst into the sky. Like a flash, it drowned the relatively small bodies of Calavana, Middlet and Donathik. No. In the screams that resounded through the sky, the low-level members of the three fallen angels were directly drowned by the flash of magic power. They were annihilated in the light of magic power that was full of terrifying impact. As if they had never appeared, they completely disappeared from this world. The gorgeous magic arrays that covered his body began to dissipate. The terrifying magic power that rose from Noah's body also gradually converged. This part of the world once again returned to its state of silence. However, the atmosphere that permeated the air was no longer heavy. Instead, it was as if they were in the depths of hell. No, impossible. After witnessing her three subordinates being completely annihilated in less than 10 seconds, Laneri no longer had her previous leisurely appearance. Only fear filled her heart, causing her face to become incomparably pale. This is impossible. It's impossible. How can a human eliminate three fallen angels in one move? You still have that disdainful sense of racial superiority? Noah, who didn't move from the beginning to the end, only raised his eyes and looked at the trembling Laneri in front of him. His gaze was so calm that it made one's scalp numb. That's why you can take advantage of a girl who clearly did nothing wrong without any sense of guilt, right? Noah couldn't help but recall the reason why Isha came to him. Because I don't know where I can go. Yes. She didn't know where she could go. But in the end, Isha chose to come to Noah and even begged Noah to take her in. Isha didn't even know a little about Noah. Before today, she didn't even speak a word to Noah. Her impression of Noah was only that Noah could easily defeat Freddy and mercilessly kill him. She didn't know anything about such a person, and her first impression of him was very cruel. Yet she chose to rely on him. One could imagine how helpless she must have felt at that time. After all, if she made the wrong choice, she would be doomed eternally. Fortunately, Isha met Noah. If Isha had met an unsympathetic person who coveted Isha's beauty and took her in, what would have happened to her? She didn't even need to think about it. In the end, Isha still chose to come to Noah. It wasn't that Isha was naive enough to believe that there was no bad person in the world, but she really had no other choice. The one who forced Isha to this point, other than the church, was the fallen angel who coveted the sacred gear in Isha's body. Just because someone's body carried a completely unwanted but useful power, she completely squeezed out the value of this person, even at the cost of her life? In the world of Black Bullet, what was the difference between those trashy humans who kept saying that the cursed child was the hope of humanity and asked them to give up their lives to fight for it? Yet they openly accused the other party of being a monster? So you have succeeded in pissing me off. With a bone-chilling ruthlessness, Noah reached out his hand to Laneri, who was floating in the air in front of him. I heard that the fallen angels used to be angels that serve God. Because they had evil thoughts that they shouldn't have, they fell and became fallen angels. Then, if I can let you return to the embrace of the Lord you used to serve after killing you, you should be grateful to me, right? As he spoke, a dazzling magic array appeared in front of Noah's palm. The mana radiating from the array illuminated Noah's cold eyes. But I still want to say, you don't have to thank me, just don't let me see you again. Hearing those words and feeling the terrifying mana rising from Noah's body, the fear in Laneri's heart finally erupted. Ah! While screaming hysterically, Laneri ran in the opposite direction from where Noah was and ran for her life. Looking at Laneri, who was running away at the fastest speed in her life, the beautiful magic formation in front of Noah's palm suddenly spun. Bang! In the next moment, along with the dull sound of a gunshot, A magical light beam carrying a scorching heat tore through the air and blasted towards Lenali. In just a few moments, it caught up with Lenali and engulfed her figure. Boom! Under the pitch-black moonlight, a gorgeous beam of magic power exploded in the air, stirring up strong winds and bright flames, illuminating the horizon. As for fallen angel Lenari, she had already set up her subordinate's footsteps and silently vanished into thin air, vanishing into thin air. Noah's pitch-black eyes reflected the colors of the flames in the air. He slowly withdrew his mana while looking at his hand and smiled helplessly. After becoming a god slayer, the already foul mana has become even more out of the norm. After processing the mana, the magic that is shot out can no longer be used as a bullet, but as a cannon? If Qingzi knew, he would probably feel that it's unfair, right? Chapter 596. Greetings, everyone. I'm Aisha Aljet. Nice to meet you. Inside the Supernatural Research Department of the Full King Academy, Aisha stood at the entrance and bowed to everyone present. Apart from Xiao Mao, all the demons in the Supernatural Research Department looked at each other and stood up. Noah, who was leaning against the wall, could only smile bitterly as he witnessed the scene. Just like Kitten last night, both Ryaz and Jurai Himashima seemed very confused by Aisha's appearance. They were even a little speechless. There was nothing they could do about it. After all, Aisha had been wearing that nun's habit all this time and refused to change. At first, Noah had planned to have Kitten accompany Aisha to buy some casual clothes before coming here to meet Ryaz. That way, it would not cause unnecessary trouble. However, Aisha said that she would be nervous if she did not dress up properly when meeting someone important. As it turned out, the so-called solemnity was referring to the nun's habit, which led to this scene. On the other hand, Aisha herself did not seem to know what she did wrong. She did not get the response she expected, and was at a loss as to what to do. She kept looking at Noah for help, and Noah did not know whether to laugh or cry. However, before Noah could say anything, Ryaz spoke. Teacher Noah. Crossing her arms and leaning against the luxurious desk, Ryaz asked with her eyes closed. Can you please explain the current situation? I've already explained it once last night. So, let's just wait for Kitten to report it to you so that I don't have to say it again. Noah sighed. Of course, I can still tell you the purpose of this meeting. Purpose? Ryaz and Jurai Himashima looked at each other before asking. So, you're saying that you brought this nun here because you need my help? Well, that's it. Noah did not beat around the bush. After glancing in Aisha's direction, he said to Leah. Actually, I want to ask you to help Aisha with the enrollment procedures, so that she can study at Full King Academy. Ah! Leah exclaimed in shock as she looked at Noah in disbelief. You mean you want the church's nuns to come and go freely in my territory? Not to mention Leah's, apart from Kitten who knew what was going on, Jurai Himashima was also completely confused, but she still spoke very politely. Teacher Noah, are you serious? It was no wonder that Ju Naiji would ask this question. After all, it was hard to imagine that a member of the church would be able to freely enter and leave the demon's territory and study in the Full King Academy. After all, demons and the church were mortal enemies. Aisha's identity isn't a problem. Kitten will explain it to you later. Noah felt that it was too troublesome to explain, so he went straight to the point. I just want to say that Aisha is the same as me. She doesn't belong to any faction, so you don't have to worry about that. Just tell me if I can let Aisha study in Full King Academy, regardless of her identity. That being said, as long as Leah agreed, it would not be a problem for Aisha to enter Full King Academy. On the surface, Full King Academy was an extremely ordinary high school, but it was actually a unit run by the Gimli family in the human realm. In other words, Leah was the owner of Full King Academy. As long as Leah agreed, Aisha's enrollment would not be a problem. I want to ask you for a favor as well. Aisha nervously tapped her fingers and spoke timidly. If Mr. Noah and Kitten are here, then I'd like to be here as well. So please. With that, Aisha bowed deeply again and Leah's frown deepened. It seems that a lot of things have happened in places I don't know about. With that, Leah thought about it for a moment before nodding. All right. If we don't consider her identity, It's not a problem for her to enroll in the academy. An elated look appeared on Aisha's face upon hearing this. Oh, really? But just like my mentor, I'll take corresponding measures to enroll you in Full King Academy. Leah looked straight at Aisha, her expression turning more or less serious. Not only will I have someone investigate your identity, but I'll also have Kitten keep an eye on you, just like Mr. Noah. Are you sure you're okay with that? Yes. Aisha seemed to have calmed down from Leah's seriousness, and a sincere smile appeared on her adorable little face. As long as I can be with Mr. Noah and Kitten, I'm willing to do anything. From this sentence, anyone could tell that Aisha was dependent on Noah and Kitten. Presumably, in this unfamiliar place where her identity was very sensitive, Aisha would only feel at ease if she stayed by Noah and Kitten's side, right? It's good that you understand. She nodded and said helplessly, I'm glad that you understand. I don't know what happened, but since I've agreed to it, I hope everything goes smoothly. Don't let anything happen that would make me regret it. Yes. Aisha straightened her back and replied reflexively. Clearly, Aisha was nervous in front of the noble and elegant Leah, who was also a pure-blooded superior demon. Thanks, Leah's. Noah thanked Leah's before turning to the Kitten. Kitten, show Aisha around the academy and let her familiarize herself with the place. Kitten did not object, and held Aisha's hand after a nod. Come with me. Okay. With that, the expressionless Kitten left the Supernatural Research Department with the happy Aisha and walked outside. Only then did Leah turn her gaze back to Noah. Could it be that what happened last night has something to do with that child? What happened last night? Noah was startled and immediately reacted. You already know? What can I know? Leah said with some displeasure. I just felt a very powerful magic power appear last night, and the location was where you lived. If it wasn't for Kitten not contacting me, I would have gone to the scene last night to check it out. Last night, Noah's 2 magic cannons directly wiped out 4 of the fallen angels' low-level personnel. Although it was just a simple magic trick that was fired after processing magic power, Noah's magic power was out of the norm. The simplest magic trick, whose power was directly linked to the amount of magic power, was much more powerful than other magic tricks. Even Noah could no longer call it a magic bullet, but a magic cannon. That being the case, how could Leah not have noticed the huge commotion last night? He didn't go over to check it out directly. Presumably, it was because that place was where Noah lived, and the Kitten was also there. Well, a lot of things did happen on my side. Noah very irresponsibly threw the job of explaining away. Kitten will report it to you anyway, so I won't say much. You can just ask her. Don't you think that's a little too clean? Leah smiled bitterly. Kanna must have sensed the commotion last night, but she didn't move because she sensed that I didn't go there. But soon, she should come directly to me to ask about what happened, right? As soon as he said that, someone knocked on the door of the Supernatural Research Department. Yes. Jurai Himashima was the first to react. Come in. The door of the Supernatural Research Department was immediately pushed open by a hand. It was the hand of the vice head of the Student Council, Jinro Zhangji. And standing in the direction of the door was naturally the president of the Student Council, Takeshi Kanna. Just like Leah and Jurai Himashima, Takeshi Kanna and Jinro Zhangji had always been working together. Noah, who used to think that it was like a princess and her attendant, now understood why. Leah once said that there were only 2 pure-blooded demons in this academy. One was Leah, who was from the Gimli family. As for the other one, there was no doubt that it was Leith's childhood sweetheart, Joshua Kangna. And pure-blooded demons were all nobles, superior demons who had received noble titles. Therefore, Jinro Zhangji must be Takeshi Kanna's kin. Chapter 597. Seeing Kangna and Jinlua Zhangji enter the room, Leah's could not help but show a perfect smile. I was just talking about you, and you're here already. You're still as serious about things that can't be taken lightly. Since I have already said that this is a serious matter, it would be foolish to not take it seriously. Kangna Ji smiled slightly. After he turned his gaze to Noah, the smile on his face became even wider. It's been a while, teacher. This is the first time we've met as demons, isn't it? It's just that the famous president of the student council is too busy to pay attention to an idler like me who can only stay in the infirmary. Noah shrugged. But Kangna, shouldn't you introduce yourself to me again? You're right. Otherwise it would be rude to you, teacher. Chokchungna folded his hands in front of him and slowly bowed to Noah. After bowing, he straightened his body and looked at Noah. My real name is Kangna Sidi, the next leader of the Sidi family, a pure-blooded demon family in the underworld. You can call me Kangna as well, teacher. So you're a descendant of a noble as well. Noah smiled helplessly. Well, I'm not as famous as you and Lias, and my name is real. As for the rest, you should know everything from Lias, right? I can only say that I know everything that Lias knows, and naturally, I don't know anything that Lias doesn't know. Kangna closed his eyes and said with a deeper meaning, I'm also waiting for the time when teacher is willing to tell us his true identity. Noah pursed his lips when he heard that, but he did not say anything else. There was no need to think about it. Both Lias and Kangna were still doubtful about Noah's origins. It was not that Lias and Kangna suspected that Noah had sneaked into the academy with ulterior motives. They just thought that Noah's identity was definitely not as simple as he said. The most direct question was, since Noah was a magician and sorcerer, where did he learn his magic tricks and spells? If he could learn something similar to a demon's power, he could not be just a normal human. Of course, Noah could also come up with a popular story in a certain country. For example, he was walking on the streets when a beggar suddenly took out a book and sold it to Noah for $10 each. In the end, after Noah bought it, he found that it recorded magic. However, using that story, Noah might as well say that he was unlucky enough to fall off a cliff somewhere, survived, and picked up a book that recorded magic, peerless martial arts. That was how he became a mage, peerless martial arts. That way, he might be able to gain more trust. From Lia's and Kana's point of view, there would be no books that recorded magic, no matter where the beggars were, or where the cliffs were. Speaking of which, this is really strange. Kangna looked around the supernatural research department, and asked in confusion. Only Lias and Junai are left in the department? What about Kitten and Dumba? They all have their own missions now. Lias replied helplessly. I also realized that it's only me and Junai in the department recently. We're starting to run out of manpower. Then, how about taking in a few more dependents? Kangna suddenly smiled. You should have a lot of chess pieces on your side, right? A lot. Lias shrugged. But I, Lias Jimenez, won't simply hand over my chess pieces just because I want more manpower. If there's no suitable candidate, I won't simply perform demon reincarnation. Kangna nodded as if she agreed with Lia's point of view. Noah, who heard the conversation between Lias and Kangna, remembered about demon reincarnation. As mentioned before, after the Great War between the three factions of demons, angels and fallen angels, each faction had to rely on humans to survive due to excessive losses. Among them, after the war, many of the pureblood 72 pillar families were directly cut off and destroyed in history, greatly reducing the number of pureblood demons. In order to increase the combat power of demons and increase their population, Beelzebub, one of the current 4 demon kings, developed a technique to use chess pieces to reincarnate demons from other races. The technique was called Evil Piece. It was a technique that used chess in the human world as a model to create chess pieces and provide them to superior demons so that the superior demons could use them on creatures from other races, thereby allowing them to reincarnate as demons and become their own dependents and servants. There were a total of 6 types of chess pieces. Castle Rook, Knight, Bishop, Pawn. Among them there was only 1 king and 1 queen, 2 rook, 2 knight and 2 bishop, and 8 pawn, which was the most basic pawn. Moreover, each chess piece had the characteristics and different values to bestow certain abilities to the reincarnated dependents. The king was a superior demon who had obtained the evil piece. It had the ability to reincarnate other creatures into dependents, and its combat ability depended on the individual. The queen had the abilities of all chess pieces except for the king and pawn. Its value was equivalent to 9 pawns. The rook would be endowed with super high attack and defense, and its value was equivalent to 5 pawns. The knight would be endowed with excellent speed, and its value was equivalent to 3 pawns. The bishop would be endowed with magic talent and ability, and its value was equivalent to 3 pawns. Pawn, on the other hand, had the ability to be promoted to any pawn other than king in the enemy's camp when he received the permission of the king. He could obtain the ability of that pawn and change it at will, including queen. Of course, as pure-blooded superior demons, Lilith and Kanna were both kings. Needless to say, Jurai Himejima and Juheim Shinra, who served Liaz and Kanna all day long, were the most valuable and powerful queen. As for the other chess pieces, Noah did not know about Kanna's side. But as for Lilith's side, Noah remembered that the kitten was a rook, and Shiba Yuto was a knight. That was why the kitten had such monstrous strength, and Shiba Yuto's speed was also outstanding. No matter what, as a pure-blooded demon family, if you don't have powerful dependents that can match your status, it will affect your reputation, won't it? Kanna glanced at Lilith. Especially since you are a special case. Even if you only represent a pure-blooded demon family now, you will soon have the reputation of a pure-blooded demon family added to your name. That has nothing to do with you. The smile on Lilith's face, which had been extremely noble and elegant all this while, seemed to have frozen. It disappeared in an instant, and her tone became gloomy. You're here to ask about what happened last night, right? Song wasn't surprised at all by Leah's sudden change in attitude. He nodded and walked up to Liaz, who had a rather sour expression on her face, and started talking to her. Noah, who had clearly seen Lilith's reaction, looked at Kojima Junai, who also had a complicated expression on her face. He hesitated for a moment before asking tentatively, "What does that mean?" Ji Dao Junai shook his head, forcing a smile as he said this. Sometimes, being born into a noble family is not necessarily a good thing. Upon hearing that, Noah shut his mouth and did not ask any more questions. It seemed that Lilith had a story too. Chapter 598. Aisha seemed to be very happy about being admitted to Full King Academy. Apart from the one time she showed up at the infirmary under Kitten's lead, she spent the rest of her time with Kitten, wandering around every corner of the academy. Noah even heard that under Kitten's invitation, Aisha even joined the first-year girls' physical education class and sat in on the first-year class. Noah didn't know how Kitten convinced the teacher to allow Aisha to attend physical education class and sit in on the class. Noah only knew that under such circumstances, Aisha and Kitten were together all day long. They didn't even wait for Noah after school and went straight home together. Seeing how close Aisha and Kitten were, Noah really couldn't imagine the terrible atmosphere when they met last night. But what was even more unimaginable was that a nun from the church would hang out with a demon, right? Seeing how happy Aisha was, Noah had no choice but to let Kitten take the little nun and run around. On the other hand, there were some problems on Leah and Kanna's side. It was mainly reflected in 2 aspects. One was Kanna's attitude towards Noah. No, it should be said that Kanna cared about Noah a lot. Maybe it was because Kitten told her the reason why Noah killed the 4 fallen angels who had set their sights on Aisha. Kanna started to pay attention to Noah. To be more precise, it was Tsongna who noticed Noah's battle prowess. To be able to kill 4 fallen angels without suffering a single injury, and to be able to sense a huge amount of mana last night, Kanna believed that Noah's strength was at least at the level of a superior demon. In other words, Noah's strength should at least be on par with Leah and Kanna's. If that was the case, Kanna would definitely pay more attention to Noah. A mage who was at least as powerful as a superior demon was enough to threaten Lias and Kanna. While Leah had begun to trust Noah, Kanna didn't. However, Noah didn't show any signs of attacking anyone in Full King Academy, nor did he show any intention of doing anything. That was why Kanna suppressed her suspicions for the time being, and only paid attention to Noah. People with great power attracted attention easily in the first place. That was why Kanna's change was understandable. On the other hand, there was the problem with Leah. There was no telling what Kanna's words in the supernatural research department meant, but Kanna's words did awaken some unpleasant memories in Leah's heart. Those memories seemed to be hidden deep in her heart, as if she was avoiding them. And yet, Lias's childhood sweetheart, Songna dug it out instead. Perhaps it was because Kana was reminding Leah to stop running? But that did put Leah's mood today. According to Jurai Himashima, Leah had been spacing out many times throughout the day and appeared to be very absent-minded. Noah kept that in mind and didn't poke his nose into other people's business. Chapter 497. Alim. After a while, Noah told Erica and Liliana about how he met Athena last night, followed her here, discovered those evil magicians and came to this ruin. After understanding the whole story, Erica and Liliana fell silent almost at the same time. They looked at the evil magicians lying on the ground with hostility in their eyes. What a loss of composure. Liliana expressed her inner emotions directly. Although the losses caused by the battle between the two kings made the magic societies in Italy focus most of their attention on the crater, which is why they didn't discover the petty tricks of these despicable people, none of the magic societies discovered the situation here. It's really a loss of composure on the part of the magic societies in Italy. There's nothing we can do about it, Lily, Erica analyzed calmly. After all, Italy is basically controlled by various magic societies in secret now. Even if there were any ruins, they would have basically discovered them. Who would have thought that there would be undiscovered ruins hidden in this place? Or maybe someone discovered it, but didn't explore it, right? Noah made sarcastic remarks as if it had nothing to do with him. Although they are all magic societies in Italy, there is also a hostile relationship between the Copper Black Cross and the Bronze Black Cross. It's impossible for all the magic societies in this country to be united. This ruin might have been discovered by some magic society, but in order not to attract the attention of other magic societies, they haven't found the opportunity to explore it. Noah glanced in the direction of the ruins. To put it simply, it's possible that some magic society has been hiding this ruin because they want to monopolize it and wait for the opportunity to explore it. In the end, it was discovered by these evil magic societies during this sensitive period, right? Erica sighed. It's not impossible. Upon hearing that, Liliana furrowed her brows subtly, revealing a trace of helplessness and irritation on her face. Liliana's personality was too straightforward, which could be said to be the most standard type of knight. Therefore, Liliana generally wouldn't get involved in complicated matters such as conspiracy theories. It could be said that in terms of talent in swordsmanship and magic, Liliana wasn't inferior to Erica at all. However, Liliana didn't have the temperament and qualities of a social lady at all. That was why Liliana had been toyed with by Erica since she was a child. Liliana could also understand the various speculations of Noah and Erica, but it was difficult for her to participate in the discussion. The only thing Liliana could do was to express her feelings without hiding anything. Hence, Liliana said as if she was having a headache. I didn't expect that even a goddess like Athena would appear and look for the snake. Noah couldn't help but smile bitterly. After rolling his eyes at the shy Isha who popped her head out of the bed and Kitten who was staring at him, he picked up 2 pieces of clothes on the ground and threw them on the bed. I put the ingredients I just bought from the supermarket into the refrigerator. Before I finish, if you are still hiding in the bed, I will directly lift the quilt. Ha! Isha was startled and tears welled up in her eyes. Why are you like this? Kitten stared at Noah even more fiercely. Obscene healthcare teacher. Noah, who was completely accustomed to Kitten's sharp tongue, turned around indifferently and walked toward the kitchen. I mean what I say. Looking at Noah who left this sentence and walked into the kitchen without looking back, Isha and Kitten looked at each other. After a moment of silence, they suddenly lifted the quilt at the same time, and picked up the clothes that were thrown on the bed by Noah. When they saw the clothes, they both widened their eyes at the same time. This is... Sure enough, you are an animal teacher. Isha and Kitten had no choice but to put on the clothes when they heard the sound of the refrigerator door being closed. Even though their faces were red, they still put on the clothes. So Noah, who came out of the kitchen, froze again as if he had been petrified. This was because Isha and Kitten's outfits were too destructive for men. It wasn't anything strange, though. However, at this time, Isha was only wearing pajamas that had been buttoned incorrectly due to panic. Moreover, she was only wearing the upper half of her body. Kitten was even worse. She was only wearing a white t-shirt. In other words, whether it was Isha or Kitten, they only covered their upper bodies, exposing their 2 white thighs to the air. Noah could even vaguely see that under the pajamas and t-shirts on Isha and Kitten, there were faintly discernible patterns on their lower bodies. This caused Noah to involuntarily take a step back and exclaim in shock, "Why are you dressed like this?" Isha and Kitten, who were angry out of embarrassment, stared at Noah speechlessly. Noah suddenly remembered. He only threw one set of clothes to Isha and Kitten each. Noah covered his face. This kind of situation is inevitable when living together. Chapter 599. Cohabitation between a boy and a girl would cause all kinds of problems. If they loved each other and were already married, or if they were boyfriend and girlfriend and were so close that they couldn't be separated, then it was a different story. However, if the relationship between them could only stop at the level of friends, then all kinds of things would happen. And it was inevitable. Take Noah for example. He had lived with a lot of girls before. For example, in the world of absolute double blade, he first lived under the same roof with Ivanli and Julie, and then he lived in the same room with Lilith. At that time, all kinds of accidents had caused Noah a lot of trouble. However, among the 3 girls, except for Ivanli, Lilith, who was as dazzling as the sun, and Julie, who was as gentle as the moon, didn't have the self-awareness of a man and a woman. Maybe they trusted Noah too much, or they didn't put up their guard against Noah at all. During the cohabitation period, they had been training Noah's patience. It made Noah feel that the reason he could face girls so calmly now was all thanks to the 2 girls. On the contrary, in the world of Night of the Sorcerer, when he lived with Qingzi and Yuzhu, there weren't so many things that made people think of romantic things. First of all, the area of Juyuan Temple was too big. Even if they lived in the same mansion, if they wanted to meet, it was similar to visiting the neighbor's house. Naturally, there wouldn't be so many things happening. Second, Juyuan Temple was originally Yuzhu's territory. In the end, there were magic spells set by Yuzhu. This kind of application was effective in defending against external enemies, so it was quite easy to prevent any accidents. So at this moment, Noah finally faced the various problems of cohabitation between a man and a woman that he hadn't faced in a long time. Especially Isha, she seemed to have an excessive attitude of gratitude towards Noah for taking her in. Coupled with her pure and kind nature, sometimes with just a few words, she could make Noah speechless. For example, this night. "Is this really okay?" After the lights were turned off, Isha, who had put on her pajamas, laid on the bed and looked at Noah, who was sleeping on the ground. Her voice more or less carried a trace of guilt and uneasiness. "You gave the bed to a person like me, but you slept on the ground. I'm really sorry." Next to Isha, Kitten also put on her pajamas and laid on the bed. After hearing Isha's words, although she didn't say anything, she still stuck her head out of the bed and stared at Noah with a pair of beautiful eyes that could be seen clearly even in the night. Seeing this scene, even without asking, Noah knew that Kitten must have the same thoughts as Isha. Moreover, it wasn't just a day or 2 of them. After all, Kitten was very bad at expressing her emotions, just like Noah's other cohabitant, Julie, or even worse. At least Julie could stick to Noah's side without hesitation when she wanted to express her goodwill. Kitten, on the other hand, seemed to be completely exhausted in this regard. Even if there was something, she would choose not to say it out loud. Instead, she would hide it in her heart and silently let it pass. So even if she had the same thoughts as Isha, Kitten probably wouldn't say it out loud, right? You don't have to worry so much. After all, I'm also a man. I can't let a girl sleep on the ground, right? Noah, who already had some understanding of Kitten, smiled knowingly, lying on the bed that covered the ground, and shook his head. Besides, don't look at me like this. I've tried to sleep in the worst environment in the past. Even in the mountains and forests, when it was raining heavily, I just found a tree and leaned against it to sleep. Now that I have such a place to sleep, it's already very good. That's too pitiful. Isha's compassion seemed to be awakened. She couldn't help but clasped her hands in front of her chest and prayed, "Lord, please bless the kind and pitiful Mr. Noah." Oh, when Isha prayed, Kitten's brows immediately frowned. "I feel so uncomfortable." "Ah, Isha only then reacted and smiled embarrassedly. I forgot that kitten is a demon. Hearing this, Noah couldn't help but laugh. For demons, the God in the Bible was the absolute enemy. Therefore, Isha praying in front of Kitten like this, of course, Kitten would feel uncomfortable. Fortunately, Aisha was asking the so-called Lord to bless Noah. If she was asking the Lord to bless Kitten, Kitten might have been hurt a little, right? Besides, even if she prayed for Noah instead of Kitten, Noah probably wouldn't receive the so-called God's blessing, right? God was like humans to locusts. They felt that demons were harmful and must be eradicated. And God to the Godslayer was like humans to a tiger. It was no longer a level of harmlessness, but a level of non-life-threatening danger. This was the real threat. Under such circumstances, if the so-called God knew of Noah's existence, not only would he not bless Noah, but he would also curse Noah. Okay, you guys can sleep peacefully. Immediately, Noah said with a chuckle. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. You guys don't have to worry about me. Is that so? Isha was startled. Then she thought of something and became a little shy. How about Mr. Noah also sleep with us? Noah, who had a knowing smile on his face, after hearing this sentence, the expression on his face completely froze and he fell into a state of speechlessness. This way, everyone will be able to sleep comfortably, right? Isha seemed to have realized how ambiguous her words were. Her pretty face turned red and she hurriedly explained in a panic. Cat. Kita-chan also thinks that this is better, right? However, the small cat made such a sound. Rejected. Aisha immediately lowered her head in dejection. Seeing this, Noah laughed bitterly. Okay, go to sleep, you still have school tomorrow really. Isha and Kitten both nodded in unison. At this moment, a small red magic circle suddenly appeared beside the kitten's ear like a headset covering one of its ears. Kitten was stunned at first, then she reacted, straightened up, and began to speak to the magic circle. Is this Senior Junai? Surprisingly, it was a small convenient magic circle used for communication. Kitten began to whisper to the magic circle beside her ear. After a while, she wiped her ear and cancelled the appearance of the magic circle. At the same time, Kitten's face also showed a serious expression, looked at Noah, and said the sentence in front of Noah and Isha. The minister is gone. In the silent night, outside the gate of the empty Komwe Academy, Noah slowly walked from afar. When he arrived in front of the school gate, he leaped and easily jumped over the fence of the school gate, entered the academy, and walked in the direction of the old school building. Lyeth was gone. This was the news that Junai brought to Kitten. However, this news was a bit unclear. To be more precise, it should be said that Lyeth had never returned home. Junai, who discovered this, contacted Kitten and seemed to want to ask if Kitten had seen Lyeth. But of course Kitten, who had been fooling around with Isha all day, of course, was not with Lyeth. While Junai thought that Lyeth should be fine, Kitten seemed to be very worried. To ease Kitten's mind, Noah came to Komwe Academy to see if he could find Lyeth. Noah's intuition told him that Lyeth should still be in the academy. Noah walked into the old schoolhouse and arrived at the Supernatural Research Department. He gently opened the unlocked door of the Supernatural Research Department and cast his gaze inside. Noah noticed it at first glance. Beside the window of the Supernatural Research Department, a beautiful figure with red hair fluttering in the wind stood there, leaning sideways against the window, looking at the night sky outside. Her pretty face under the soft moonlight showed a pitiful and helpless feeling. As expected, Lyeth was still in the academy, and it was very obvious that Lyeth was still here, not because she had something to do, but because she had a lot of things on her mind. Noah had already vaguely noticed this possibility. That was why Noah felt that Lyeth did not go home. She was not running around outside but was still in the old school building and had not returned. Chapter 600. To be honest, this was the first time Noah had seen Leah's pitiful and helpless look. In the past, Leah gave Noah the impression that she was a person who had received an advanced education. Her every move carried a kind of majesty and elegance, and no one could find fault with it. After all, in the evil piece, Leah was the king. And Leah's every action did not disappoint her position as the king at all. She was smart and capable, and sometimes even made people feel that she was the next leader of a pure-blooded noble among the demons. She was impeccable. But at that very moment, the Laius in front of Noah was no longer a smart and capable young lady of a noble family. Instead, she was just an ordinary girl who had fallen into a heavy heart. It was hard to believe that such a strong person had become so weak. It was because of this disbelief that no man could stand by and watch Leah in front of him, right? At least, that was the case for Noah. At once, Noah closed the door of the paranormal research department and approached Laius, who was looking out of the window, and spoke softly. Leah? Although his voice was soft, in the silent and dark supernatural research department, Noah's call was still quite harsh. However, Leah did not seem to notice Noah's voice at all. She did not even notice Noah's approach. She just looked out of the window in a daze. Her eyes were even a little unfocused, and she had completely fallen into a state of absent-mindedness. If Noah really had any bad intentions toward Leah, he could definitely kill her with a single blow right now, right? Is Laius really troubled to this extent by her worries? Noah frowned slightly, reached out, and put his hand on Leah's shoulder. Leah, it's time to wake up. Leah immediately let out a cute cry of surprise after being woken up without warning. She quickly came back to her senses and quickly looked behind her. When she saw Noah, she was slightly stunned and surprised. Why are you here? Shouldn't I be the one asking you that question? Noah's frown deepened. It's already so late. Why are you still here? Late? Leah looked out of the window in confusion. And when she saw that the sky outside was completely dark, her expression became even more surprised. It's already so late? Didn't you notice the time? Noah was a little surprised. What are you so lost in thought about? In nothing. It was only then that Leah realized what was going on. After adjusting her emotions, she showed Noah her usual noble, elegant, and heroic smile. You're here for me, teacher? Thank you very much. Seeing that Leah had returned to her usual self, Noah did not feel relieved. Instead, he sighed. The way you look now only tells me that you're trying to be brave. What? The smile on Leah's face changed slightly. She turned her back to Noah, as if she did not want Noah to see her expression. I'm not trying to be brave. It's just that you're too worried, teacher. I'm fine. I'm just worried. Noah shook his head and went to the other side of the window. He leaned against it and stood on the left and right side of the supernatural research department's window. Then he turned and looked at the night view outside. But those cute family members of yours are not just worried. They're very worried. Leah fell silent all of a sudden. Clearly, she knew that if she continued to hide it, she would really be trying to be brave. The surroundings suddenly became quiet, and the atmosphere in the supernatural research department became a little strange. Not long after, Leah suddenly spoke. Do you think it's good to be born into nobility, teacher? Leah's words reminded Noah of what Jurai Himejima said in the morning. So Noah replied to Leah's question with what Junai Himeshima had said to Leah's. Sometimes, being born into nobility isn't necessarily a good thing. You're right. Leah's expression became a little bitter, but it quickly turned into a somewhat illusory, gloomy face as if she was going to go far away. However, I don't think it's a bad thing that I was born into the Gemengli family. In fact, I'm very grateful that fate allowed me to be born into the Gemengli family, allowing me to have a loving family and endless glory. Is that so? Noah glanced at Leah as if he wanted to see through her heart. Do you really think so? Yes. Leah's nodded heavily and looked out of the window. But if it's possible, I hope that people will remember that I'm still Leah, while bearing the name of Gimli. The meaning behind her words was obvious. Noah didn't know how famous the Gimli family was, or how high their status was. But being born into such a family, Leah's brilliance would inevitably be overshadowed. When people saw Leah, they would only say, that's the next head of the Gimli family, and not, that's Leah. Just like how Noah and Lax's were looked at through colored glasses because they were Makarov's grandsons, Leah must have had the same experience. When she did something outstanding that ordinary people couldn't achieve, people would think that since she was born into such a special family, It was natural for her to have such achievements. If she didn't have any outstanding achievements, people would look at her with contempt, thinking that it was a stain on her noble birth, and that she didn't deserve to have such a status. Lax's became neurotic because of this. Leah wasn't as extreme as Lax's, but she still felt pressured. I'm proud to be a member of the Gimli family. Leah smiled bitterly at Noah with a puzzled expression. So, I don't want the name Gimli to burden me. Do you understand, teacher? Since you're born into a noble family, sometimes there are many things that are beyond your control. Noah said faintly after a moment of silence. The most common example is being unable to decide who you're going to marry, right? This sentence made Leah lower her head and bury her pretty face under her red bangs, covering all her expression. In response, Noah just smiled abruptly. Actually, I'm also engaged and I have 2 fiancés. Leah's ears twitched slightly as if she was reacting to Noah's words. They've liked me since they were young, but I've never responded to this. It wasn't until recently that we finally got married and made a promise to each other for a lifetime. At that time, I really thought that the marriage was quite beautiful, and I wanted to make this marriage a beautiful one. As if he didn't see Leah's expression, Noah began to speak, minding his own business. A lifetime of mutual consent isn't just something that girls can dream of. It's also an extravagant hope in the heart of anyone who has a longing for love. And to be able to promise a lifetime with the person whose heart is closest to yours, that marriage is undoubtedly a happy one. Everyone wants it. With that said, Noah sighed. However, an unconsensual marriage isn't burdened with the vision of the future, but with the heavy burden of reality. No matter what the purpose is, it will only be a kind of hurt. Just take it as a teacher's advice for your life. Noah smiled at Leah. Don't be blinded by the surname Gimli. You just have to be Leah. And if you let go of the disadvantages of the surname, you must also let go of the benefits of the surname. What the family gives you is often something that you can only accept unilaterally. So if you want something, you have to fight for it yourself. Leah almost couldn't help but say this. But isn't my strength limited? Then can't you not fight alone? Noah replied matter-of-factly. Aren't there many people around you who can lend you strength? Leah fell into deep thought. Noah didn't disturb Leah. He just smiled and looked at the night view outside the window. The night passed just like that. Chapter 601. That night, only the 2 of them knew the content of the conversation between Noah and Leah. Noah did not reveal it to Isha and the kitten, and Leah did not seem to have told Jurai Himashima either. However, since then, Leah had returned to her previous valiant and heroic performance. Although she would think seriously from time to time, her state was no longer as bad as before the conversation. If there was anything that had changed, it would be that Leah would often consult Noah about life, as if she hoped that Noah could give her some advice on what to do next. In this regard, Noah naturally would not refuse. Sometimes, he would chat with Leah to relieve Leah's worries. After about 3 days of this life, Leah seemed to have made a major decision in her heart. She no longer came to Noah to consult about life. Instead, she would often quietly contact someone in the dark. According to Jurai Himashima, Leah did not even tell her about this matter. This was a very rare thing. One must know that for a superior demon king, the queen was not only the most capable assistant by his side, but also the confidant who could solve problems the most. If Leah did not tell Jurai Himashima what she was doing, it proved that it was definitely not an ordinary matter. And according to Jurai Himashima, although she did not know who Leah often contacted, she could sometimes see her very excited about something on the other side of the small magic circle used for communication. So if this continued, Jurai Himashima would sooner or later know what Leah was doing. On the contrary, Noah vaguely guessed what Leah was planning to do. However, Noah would not object to this matter. Rather, he would support it and let Leah do whatever she wanted. And so 3 days passed just like that. This morning, Noah brought the kitten along as usual, walking on the crowded Academy Avenue in the direction of the school building. Humph. On the other side of Noah, Isha, who was wearing the Colt King Academy's uniform, was also walking with a school bag in her hand. She was so happy that she was humming a song. Seeing this, the kitten could not help but speak softly. From today onwards, Aisha will be my senior. Yes. Isha's admission procedures were finally completed yesterday. Today, she was finally a second-year student in Colt King Academy as a student. Originally, with Leah's power, this matter should have been completed much faster. But Leah herself had more important things to do, so it was delayed until today. Even so, Aisha looked very happy. From today onwards, I'm also a student of this academy. Aisha smiled shyly at Noah. Should I also call Mr. Noah teacher? Compared to Mr. Noah's polite way of calling me a teacher, I think it's much more intimate. Noah patted Aisha's head. Although I'm not in charge of teaching, Aisha can still come to me in the infirmary if she needs anything. Senior Aisha doesn't need to go to a teacher, the kitten said without looking back. Senior Aisha's sacred gear can heal all kinds of injuries. There's no need for a teacher. I'm not talking about coming to me if you're hurt. I'm talking about coming to me in the infirmary if you need anything. Noah rolled his eyes. Kitty-chan, can you stop going against me all the time? The kitten continued walking without a word. Perhaps she did not care about Noah's words, or she just did not want to talk to him. She was as quiet as always. The three of them walked side by side. Naturally, it was the same as before, and they attracted numerous gazes and discussions from the surroundings. But today, most of the surrounding students had their eyes on Aisha, and some of them were shocked by her beauty. Aisha was also a very beautiful girl. Presumably in the near future, Aisha would become a very popular person in Full King Academy, and her story would be spread by the hungry boys in the academy. Noah was slowly getting used to this situation. The kitten was already used to this situation, and she continued to walk on the main road of the academy as if no one was around. As for Aisha, she did not seem to notice anything and continued to talk to Noah and the kitten. If one thought about it carefully, it was not strange. Aisha was the former saintess of the church, and her name was widely spread, and was worshipped by many believers. It was impossible for Aisha to not be in a situation where she was the center of attention, or rather, it was not strange that she was the center of attention every day. This way, Aisha would not be unaccustomed to other people's gazes. Therefore Noah the kitten and Aisha walked into the school building together. At this moment Noah, who was about to enter the school building, suddenly stopped in his tracks. His eyes suddenly lit up, and even the aura around him began to change. Aisha and the kitten, who were keenly aware of this, also stopped in their tracks. That? Aisha asked in a somewhat uncertain tone. Did you forget to bring something? The kitten did not speak, but she also stared straight at Noah, her eyes filled with confusion. Under the gazes of the two girls, Noah retracted his foot, turned around, and looked in a certain direction on the campus, uttering such words. It seems like an incredible person has come to the school. Hearing this, Aisha was still confused, but the kitten's eyes narrowed, and she followed Noah's gaze in that direction, and her expression changed. That's the direction of the old school building. After saying this, the kitten did not even say goodbye, and directly ran in the direction of the old school building, causing Aisha to cry out in alarm. Aisha. Noah patted Aisha's shoulder, calming her down. You go to the classroom first. Hearing this, Aisha did not even think about it, and directly shook her head. I want to go with you. Noah, who did not expect Aisha to directly reject him, was stunned on the spot. Following this, Aisha clenched her hands, and 2 rings suddenly appeared on her fingers, and her face was filled with determination. Although I don't know what happened, but I can heal all injuries. If there is a battle, and someone is injured, then I will definitely be of use. Noah muttered to himself, and after a while nodded. All right, if it's just to protect you, I have no problem, and I'm not good at healing. If there really is a battle, Aisha will be very useful. Let's go together. Aisha nodded heavily, and under Noah's lead, walked in the direction of the old school building. Chariot King Academy's old schoolhouse Supernatural Research Department. Noah, who came to the door of the Supernatural Research Department, did not hesitate at all, and directly opened the door. Swoosh! Almost in an instant, everyone in the room cast their eyes in the direction of the door. Among them Leah's, who was sitting on the sofa, had a rather solemn expression. Junai, who stood behind Leah's as usual, had her usual smile on her face, but there was a faint feeling of a fake smile. The kitten, who came to the supernatural research department before Noah and Isha, also stood beside Junai. As Leah's dependent, she stood behind Leah's, who was sitting on the sofa, with a cold look on her face. In such a room, an unusually heavy and tense atmosphere permeated the surroundings, bringing about an indescribable pressure. Isha seemed to be intimidated by the atmosphere in the room, and she could not help but hide behind Noah, clutching Noah's clothes with an uneasy expression. Noah just gently patted Isha's hand to comfort her, and his eyes were completely attracted by another person in the room. It was a very tall woman with silver hair tied into 2 braids in front of her, standing in the middle of the magic circle engraved on the ground of the supernatural research department, like a servant waiting for orders. She was wearing a maid outfit, and her whole body exuded a cold aura. Noah did indeed feel a rather formidable aura from this person. That aura had already caught Noah's attention, and it was very close to the Godslayer. It was not hard to imagine that this woman dressed as a maid was definitely not as simple as she looked on the surface. Chapter 602. When Noah and Isha appeared at the entrance of the Paranormal Research Department, Riaz gasped in shock. "Teacher? What are you doing here? You said the same thing last time. Can't you say something new?" Noah shrugged and glanced at the maid who had been staring at him with a smile. "I just sensed that a guest is here, so I came to visit." Before Leah's could say anything, the beautiful silver-haired maid turned her eyes to Leah's and spoke with an expressionless face. "Lady Riaz, are you planning to let a human intervene in this matter? I know what I should do. You don't have to ask." Riaz frowned and stared at the silver-haired maid with a sharp gaze. "Or is it that, Gulifia, I can't even make my own decisions on matters of this level?" "No, that's not what I meant." The maid named Gulifia bowed at Riaz. Her attitude was very humble, but her tone was neither servile nor overbearing. "You are the next head of the Gemengli family. Of course, I can't object to your decision." "You don't object?" Riaz spoke with a rare hint of mockery. "Then why are you here when I'm objecting to the family's decision?" "Of course that's not my intention," Gulifia replied calmly. "I'm here on the orders of the Master and the Demon King, Lord Lucifer." It wasn't just Leah's, but also Junai and Kitten's faces darkened at once. Demon King Lucifer? Isha was shocked by the title. Not to mention Aisha. Even Noah was stunned as he looked at Leah. Lucifer, one of the 4 demon kings who ruled the demon realm at the peak of the demon realm. Why would a demon king be involved in this? Perhaps she had sensed Noah's confusion, but Himejima Junai, who was standing behind Laius, explained. Moreover, as soon as he opened his mouth, Jurai Himeshima revealed a fact that shocked Noah and Isha. The current demon king Lucifer is the elder brother of Minister Laius. Brother? Isha was stunned. In other words, Senior Laius's brother is Lord Lucifer, the demon king? Junai and the kitten nodded. Even Laius let out a bitter smile and sighed. "If possible, I really don't want to bring up the name of my elder brother everywhere. I can understand your feelings, but even without the identity of Demon King Lucifer's sister, you are still the next head of the house." Gulifia closed her eyes and said, "So please don't do anything that will make things difficult for the Jamanli family." Her expression changed from a heavy one to a rather ugly one. "In other words, in the end, you still don't intend to listen to my opinion? I'm just reminding you not to forget your identity, Lady Laius." Gulifia suddenly looked at Laius. "You are the next head of the Jamanli family, and your every move represents the Jamanli family. If you insist on doing something like that, the Jamanli family will be the one to suffer. How can you face the Jamanli family if that happens? Don't use the Jamanli family to pressure me. I know what I'm doing." Laius's expression was getting worse, but her eyes were unusually firm. "Since I'm the next head of the Jamanli family, at least let me decide on things of this level. I'd rather not be the head of the Jamanli family, who can't decide anything." Gulifia's gaze sharpened at those words, and she stared at Leah without blinking. "Are you serious?" Gulifia had actually abandoned the honorifics. If Gulifia was really a maid like she appeared to be on the surface, then her actions were extremely rude. But Laius actually showed a hint of fear in the face of such a Gulifia, but she still looked back at her with a firm gaze. I've made up my mind, Gulifia. I won't compromise. I want to make a decision for myself. If you can't satisfy me, then I won't go back before you agree, and I won't call myself the next head of the Jamanli family. Following the spread of this sentence, the originally very tense and heavy atmosphere of the scene became even more scalp-numbing. Isha had shrunk behind Noah. While she wasn't trembling, she didn't dare to look in Laius and Gulifia's direction anymore. Clearly, she was starting to feel fear. Noah, who had been quietly listening to Laius and Gulifia's conversation, narrowed his eyes and more or less understood what was going on. From Laius's words, it was clear that the Jamanli family was forcing her to do something, and she wasn't willing to do it. But Laius was not willing to carry out this matter at all. Finally, after a conversation with Noah a while ago, she decided to put forward her opinion to the family. And just like that, the conflict between Laius and the Jamanli family attracted Gulifia. Perhaps Gulifia was here to persuade Laius on behalf of the Jamanli family. As for the matter of Laius being forced to compromise, Noah believed that it was most likely because of the engagement, judging from her performance in the previous conversation. In other words, the Jamanli family had made the decision on Laius's marriage on their own. Naturally, the disgusted Leah started to resist. It was as simple as that. This was a game between Laius and the Jamanli family. Therefore Noah, who was neither a demon nor a relative of either side, naturally couldn't intervene. Otherwise, it would only cause unnecessary disputes, and it might even lead to the issue between humans and demons instead of Laius and the Jamanli family. That was no laughing matter. Therefore, even if he wanted to intervene, he had to find an opportunity. Noah pondered in his heart, and began to look for an opportunity to intervene. Who knew that opportunities would always come unknowingly? In the corner of the Supernatural Research Department, the huge magic circle engraved on the ground suddenly lit up, vibrating the air and emitting a blinding light. Within the light, the magic circle engraved with the Jamanli family's coat of arms began to slowly transform into another pattern. Liaz, Jurai Himashima, and Kitten were all shocked the moment they saw the pattern. While everyone's attention was attracted by the unfamiliar magic circle that suddenly appeared, a scorching flame suddenly burned along the edge of the magic circle. And in the scorching flame, a figure slowly emerged. Seeing the owner of the figure, Laius' expression became extremely gloomy, and her eyes were filled with hostility. Noah followed Laius' gaze and saw a man in a red suit without a tie. The shirt under the suit was also casually open to his chest. Although his facial features were regular, there was a hint of fierceness in his expression. The man was probably in his early 20s, a few years older than Noah. However, when he turned his head and looked at Laius, the smile on his face was no different from that of an ordinary gangster. There was no sense of maturity at all. "Yo, Laius, I'm here to see you." Liaz's expression became more and more unpleasant. Even if there was no disgust on her face, her displeasure instantly infected everyone present. Seeing this, Noah somewhat understood the identity of the person who had come. "Let me introduce them to everyone." Gulifia stepped forward at the right time, and spoke in a tone that reminded one of a robot. "This is Rissel Phoenix, the third young master of the Phoenix family, a pure-blooded demon family in the underworld. He is also Lady Laia's fiancé, the fiancé of the next head of the Jamanli family." As expected, Gulifia's introduction was basically the same as Noah expected. This guy named Rissel was the fiancé arranged by the Jamanli family for Laius. Looking at Rissel, who casually put his hands in his pockets and had a smile on his face that made him look like a bully who would bully the weak at any moment, the corners of Noah's mouth slowly curled up. The opportunity to intervene had presented itself to him. Chapter 603. Whoosh! The scorching flame set off layers of sparks with the magic circle as the center. They danced in the air and scattered in all directions. With his hands in his pockets, Rissel, who looked like a thug, did not even look at the others. Instead, he directed his ferocious gaze at Liesel with a mischievous smile on his face, which made Liesel's expression stiffen. Liesel, what are you doing here? I don't really like coming to the human world. The air and wind in this world are too dirty. It's very uncomfortable for a demon like me who controls fire and wind. Liesel shrugged helplessly. But even I would be anxious to hear that my fiancé is planning to break off the engagement. Liesel, if you're obedient now, I can go back now. In other words, Liesel came here specifically because he heard that Liesel was planning to break off the engagement? That's quite thoughtful indeed. But it's a pity that he used his thoughtfulness on the wrong person. Liesel, you're not anxious about me, your fiancé. You're anxious because the path of building a good relationship between Phoenix and the Gimli family is about to be gone, right? Liesel looked at Liesel coldly. Since you already know that I'm planning to break off the engagement, you still came to me. That will only intensify my thoughts. Liesel was still smiling mischievously. Even his eyes revealed a look of indifference, as though he was scoffing at Liesel's thoughts. Say, Liesel, don't tell me you don't know that the Gimli family's current situation is not as good as it seems on the surface? Liesel did not say anything. She only stared at Liesel, which made him twitch his mouth helplessly. In the perennial war with the angels and fallen angels, many pure-blooded demons on our side have died. Even though we're now out of the war, we're still engaged in small-scale conflicts and confrontations with the angels and fallen angels. It's not that there's no danger. This is especially true for young demons like you, who are left in the mortal world and do not have the protection of their families. Reiser spoke frankly. The heirs of pure-blooded demons die in pointless conflicts with angels and fallen angels. It's not rare for the bloodline of the family to be severed. You should know how important this is to us pure-blooded demon families, right? Liaz remained silent, but her gaze was getting sharper. It wasn't just Liaz. Apart from Aisha, who didn't know what was going on, everyone knew what Rissel was talking about. Even Noah, an outsider who had been in this world for less than a month, could roughly sense the demon's predicament with his sharp political instincts. Due to the large decrease in the number of pure-blooded demons, Beelzebub, one of the current 4 demon kings, developed the technology to turn creatures of other races into demons in order to increase the strength and number of demons. In the demon piece, that gave superior demons the ability to provide creatures of other races for reincarnation. A superior demon could have up to 15 reincarnated demons as servants. This way, with the reincarnation of superior demons, the number of demons reincarnated from other races in the underworld, or more accurately, the demon realm, became stronger and stronger. That was why the pure-blooded demons should be worried. They were worried that the ancient pure-blooded demons like them would gradually be replaced by the reincarnated demons from other races. They would become more and more powerless, and in the end, there might not be any pure-blooded demons in the entire demon realm. Demons do need new blood now, and we won't reject the reincarnated demons since they are our hope to continue living. But we can't let pure-blooded demons go extinct just like that, can we? Rissel looked at Liaz amused. In order to not let pure-blooded demons go extinct, Gimli and Phoenix chose you and me to give birth to pure-blooded demon descendants. This is a problem that all pure-blooded demon families have to consider. Compared to me, your family's situation is more serious. At least I have 2 elder brothers, and you don't have to worry about the Phoenix family having no one to inherit if I die. But your family is different, isn't it? There are only 2 siblings in your family, and your elder brother has already left that family to ascend to the top as a demon king. It's impossible for him to lower himself to inherit a pure-blooded demon family. So only you, Liaz, are left to inherit your family. Rissel pouted. If you don't find a husband and give birth to a descendant, your Gimli family will be completely cut off once you die. There aren't many pure-blooded demon families left in the first place. If we lose the Gimli family, the demon's situation will be even worse. So our marriage is related to the future of demons. Do you understand, Liaz? Rissel's smile suddenly disappeared, and he stared coldly at Liaz. Even if you want to be willful, I won't let you throw a tantrum. Liaz, I'm not only here to see you today, but also to make you take back your decision. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that I won't do anything bad next. As soon as his words fell, Faint magical power began to rise around Rissel's body, turning into scorching red flames that scattered in the room with dense sparks. A heavy pressure engulfed the entire supernatural research department in an instant. Noah could feel that Isha, who was hiding behind him, trembled violently, and her grip on his clothes tightened. Zhu Nai and the kitten also tensed up their bodies almost reflexively, staring at Rissel as they entered a state of battle readiness. Leah's expression darkened as she watched Rissel squander his magical power in her own office. Just as strands of fiery red mana began to rise from her body as well, a hand suddenly pressed down on her shoulder. Calm down, Leah's. This is the academy. Leah subconsciously turned around and looked behind her. There, Noah extended a hand and put it on her shoulder, shaking his head at her. Class will start soon and almost all the students are here. If two superior demons were to fight here, it wouldn't be as simple as destroying one or two buildings. Just stop. But teacher, I can't just let Rissel fight here. Leah's frowned. Even if he's alone, if he's allowed to squander his magical power, this academy will burn to the ground. Hearing this, Noah smiled indifferently and shook his head. As long as you don't do anything, I'm sure he won't be able to do anything here. With that, everyone's attention shifted to Noah. Rissel, whose body was burning in flames, seemed to have only noticed Noah now. He narrowed his eyes at Eulifia, who had been silent all this while. I say, why is there a human here? Lord Rissel. Eulifia replied unhurriedly. That seems to be the young mistress, friend. Friend. Rissel looked directly at Noah, his eyes filled with disdain as if he was looking at a giant piece of trash. Leah's has a human as a friend? You're joking, right? No. Rather than a friend, I think I'm more like Leah's mentor. I've given her a lot of advice on the direction of her life. Noah's expression did not change in the face of Rissel's disdainful gaze. He merely smiled and said, Fortunately, Leah's listens to me. I told her to find her own happiness, and she immediately called off the marriage. She's quite obedient, isn't she? This sentence made the atmosphere drop to the freezing point in an instant. Teacher. Leah's, Aisha, Himajima Jurai, Kitten, and the others all cried out in shock. Eulifia also turned to Noah, her eyes filled with coldness. Rissel's expression changed from that disdainful look to an ugly one. His gaze toward Noah carried a hint of killing intent and malice. So you're saying that Leah's called off the marriage entirely because of you? Noah raised an eyebrow in response to Rissel's murderous and malicious gaze. After all, no matter how you look at it, a so-called third son of a noble shouldn't be worthy of being the next head of the Gimli family, right? Chapter 604. After all, no matter how you look at it, a so-called third son of a noble can't possibly be worthy of being the next head of the Gimli family, right? As Noah's words echoed in the supernatural research department, the atmosphere of the place changed completely. It was as if a conflict was about to break out on the battlefield, and the smell of smoke began to fill the air. Rizier stared at Noah and glanced at Noah's hand on Leah's shoulder. After seeing that Leah didn't resist at all the expressions on his face disappeared. Teacher. Leah's eyes widened. She didn't expect Noah to draw the flames of war to her, and she became a little anxious for a moment. However, Noah's hand on Leah's shoulder kept tightening, to the point that Leah felt some pain. The astute Leah's immediately caught Noah's meaning. Noah was hinting to Leah not to interrupt. Leah didn't know what Noah was planning to do, and while she hesitated whether to interrupt, the anxiety in her heart grew stronger. Sigh. Rizier, on the other hand, actually sighed and pulled out a hand from his pocket to cover his face. I didn't expect that the culprit who caused the chaos in the Gimli family and the Phoenix family was a human. I don't know how to express my feelings when I think about how I rushed to the human realm, because of a human. With that, Rizier opened his eyes and looked straight at Noah through the gaps between his fingers. There was no emotion in his eyes. Then, it shouldn't be a problem if I kill him, right? Leah, Aisha, Jurai Himashima, and Kitten's expressions changed instantly. No one doubted that Rizier was just saying that for fun. After all, to demons, 1 or 2 human lives were something they could take as they wished, and they wouldn't feel guilty at all. On the other hand, Demons like Leah's and Kangna who had assimilated into human society and were friendly instead of hostile were the truly unusual ones. In addition, the heavy murderous aura emitted from Rizzle's body told everyone present that he was a very dangerous person. He was serious. Facing such a riser, Noah looked up. Even though he was enveloped by that heavy murderous aura, his expression remained calm. He only said this one sentence. "It doesn't matter. If you can do it, just do it. Teacher." Leah's could not help but call out. "Please calm down. Don't worry, Leah's. I'm not losing my cool. I just find it interesting." Noah patted Liesel's shoulder. Undoubtedly, he was involved, but he was much calmer than Liesel. He looked at Riesel and smiled. Undoubtedly, it has already reached the point where it can't continue without humans, yet it still looks down on humans. Don't you think this kind of demon is very funny? Noah's words had targeted all demons. This time, not to mention Leah's and the others, even Gulifia frowned. "Human, you really do have guts." Riser laughed. His laughter was a little crazy. He looked at Noah with a gaze full of mockery. "Since you've said so, I'll kill you even if it's for the demon's reputation. If belittling humans and showing off the demon's superiority is for the demon's reputation, then I don't mind you doing it." Noah's eyes were filled with mockery. "Then, Mr. Demon, are you planning to duel with me?" No. You've misunderstood." Rizzle shook his head with a smile, but there was no smile in his eyes. "It's too serious to call it a duel. It's just a little fun." With that, the mana around Rizzle expanded, turning the scorching flames into waves of fire that attacked the surroundings. Just as Rizzle was about to kill Noah, Noah raised an eyebrow as if he didn't know that Rizzle was about to attack. "In other words, this isn't a duel, but a game? Ha 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 ha. That's right." Rizzle laughed out loud. "It's just a game. Have fun." Upon hearing that, the corner of Noah's mouth slowly curled up. That arc made it seem as if everything was under his control. It was as if everything was within his expectations. Since it's a game, there should be a wager, right? A wager? Rizzle was stunned. "That's right, a wager." Noah pretended to be deep in thought for a moment. His eyes that were looking at Riser didn't lose their brightness. Then Noah said, "Oh right. If you lose, I'll give your fiancé to you. How about that?" Everyone in the supernatural research department was stunned when those words echoed in their ears. "Teacher." Leah's was completely stunned. She didn't expect things to develop like this, and she was at a loss. As for Gulifia, she felt a chill run down her spine when she saw the bright luster in Noah's eyes. She felt that the man in front of her seemed to have calculated everything, and forcibly changed the situation from the Gemengli family and the Phoenix family into a personal issue. In other words, this was no longer a confrontation between the Gemengli family and the Phoenix family, but a confrontation between Noah and Rizzle. Unknowingly, this man named Noah had the entire situation in his hands and grasped the crux of the situation. If Rizzle really did agree to Noah's wager out of impulse and lost, Gulifia found it unbelievable that such a thought popped up in her mind, and an ominous feeling gradually grew. Her instincts told her that she had to stop this from happening. Unfortunately, before she could stop him, Rizzle burst into laughter, as if he had been poked in the funny part. It was as if he saw a circus clown performing in front of him, and he couldn't stop laughing no matter what. And so, Rizzle said that he had embarked on a path of no return. "Then what if you lose?" "If I lose, I'll be responsible for convincing Leah's to go back with you and complete the marriage." Noah shrugged as if he had been waiting for this for a long time. "Since I have a way to make Leah's back out of the marriage, I naturally have a way to convince her to go through with it. I believe that if Leah's gives up on the idea of canceling the marriage, you'll have a lot less to worry about, right?" Upon hearing Noah's words, Riser, who was just fooling around with Noah, froze for a moment before finally becoming serious. "Teacher." Leah's called out again, and this time she sounded very agitated. But just as Leah's was about to say something, Noah glanced at her. The unquestionable look in his eyes made Leah's heart skip a beat, and she couldn't help but swallow the words she was about to say. In Rizzle's eyes, that look meant that Riaz had agreed to it. His eyes sparkled at once. Right. Let's leave the game for tomorrow. At this moment, Noah changed the topic and said helplessly, "As you can see, I'm just a human. If I win the game by luck, there's nothing I can do if some noble young master decides to go back on his word. That's why I hope that the Gimli family and the Phoenix family can witness the game tomorrow. That way, you won't be able to go back on your word, right?" Superfluous. Rizzle sneered. "Very well. Let the two families be the witnesses. With the nobles as witnesses, you won't be able to go back on your word, right, Liaz?" Liaz took a step forward, but was still held back by Noah. "Liaz, if you continue to object, it will only make the issue of your marriage back to an unsolvable stalemate," Noah reminded her. "Unless you have a solution, everything you do is just a last-ditch struggle." Liaz was speechless. Very good. Then it's settled." Razel's face lit up with joy as he laughed. "I'll look forward to tomorrow then." Seeing that the situation had entered an irreversible state, Gulifia had nothing else to say, which made Noah smile. And just like that, the matter was successfully taken over by Noah. Everything was going smoothly. Chapter 605. An hour after Riesel left the Supernatural Research Department, Lyasel received a notification from the Gemengli family. Tomorrow, the bet between Noah Dole and Riesel Phoenix will be held in the form of an official duel. All the superior demon families, including the Gemengli family and the Phoenix family, will be paying attention to it. Gulifia will be the judge then. After dispelling the communication from the Gemengli family with a small magic circle, Lyasel, who was sitting behind a luxurious desk, rubbed her temples and spoke in frustration. Why did things turn out this way? At first, she was ready to resist to the very end, no matter what. But things had suddenly developed to a point where even Lyasel herself couldn't intervene. What the hell is going on? I didn't expect that the Gemengli family would agree to the bet between Sensei Noah and Lord Riesel. Takanai Himishima was confused. It's just a bet made by a human. Even if Lord Riesel agreed, the Gemengli family and the Phoenix family wouldn't agree, right? It's precisely because it was a bet issued by a human without permission that they agreed. Noah, who was sitting on the sofa and sipping tea, explained casually. For those pure-blooded demon nobles, a human has no chance of winning against the third son of the Phoenix family. Since that's the case, instead of ignoring the bet and dealing with the willfulness of the Gemengli family's eldest daughter, it's better to legalize the bet and let the third son of the Phoenix family win the bet legitimately. When that happens, with so many nobles as witnesses, you won't be able to go back on your word, Lyasel. Well, the actions of those nobles are within my expectations. I'm not surprised. Noah moved the teacup away from his mouth, his eyes filled with thoughts. But I didn't expect that the Gemengli family and the Phoenix family would agree so easily in just an hour. Aren't they worried that the young master of the Phoenix family would lose at all? For demons, most of the humans who had a large population were very weak. But Lyasel also said that there were humans who could rival demons. For example, the wielder of the sacred gear. For example, the exorcists of the church. Another example was Noah, who was regarded as a magician. Although most of the mages, exorcists, and holders of sacred gear only had the power to match low-level demons, and some were even weaker than low-level demons, there were still existences that could match high-level demons. Therefore, Noah had originally intended to show a bit of weakness and let the Gimli family and Phoenix family lower their guard against him. However, he didn't expect the Gimli family to agree to this duel so easily. This was truly beyond Noah's expectations. Could it be that those demon nobles really despise humans to the extent that they don't even think that there's a possibility of them losing? If that was the case, then Noah was overestimating the demon nobles. And yet, what Riaz said next answered Noah's question. Even if my mentor has the ability to match superior demons, those nobles would not believe that Riesel would lose. Riaz said with a deep voice, because Riser will never die. Hearing Leah's deep voice, Noah reacted instantly. Never die? What does that mean? Don't you know, teacher? It was Jurai Himishima who answered Noah's question. In the past, Phoenix was once regarded as a sacred beast that controlled life and was revered by people. Their tears could heal any injury, and if one drank their blood, they could even become immortal. In the human world, many countries left such legends. Noah also remembered after hearing Jurai Himishima's words. In order to make up for his lack of knowledge in mythology, Noah had also read many books on mythology in the world of the deicide. Among them, Noah also knew about the knowledge related to Phoenix. After all, the so-called Phoenix was actually the legendary Phoenix of immortality. And among the sacred beasts of Phoenix, there is also a marquis who is listed as one of the 72 pillars of the highest position, belonging to all the demon bloodlines, Lia said with a heavy tone. Whether it is the sacred beast of Phoenix or the demon of Phoenix, there is almost no difference in terms of ability. There's no difference? Noah narrowed his eyes slowly. I see. So, that's why you said that Riser will never die. Phoenix was the Phoenix of immortality. As a sacred beast that controlled life and had the title of Phoenix of immortality, there was no need to doubt what one of Phoenix's basic abilities was. Yes. As a member of the Phoenix race, Rissel has an immortal body, Lias said, emphasizing each word. In other words, teacher, you have to duel with an immortal body. Duel with an immortal body? In that case, it was easy to imagine what the result would be. Even if they are attacked, they can immediately regenerate and heal their injuries. Moreover, the Phoenix family can control fire and burn everything. They are truly immortal. Lia gritted her teeth. Because Riser has an immortal body, neither the Gimli family nor the Phoenix family thinks that Riser will lose to a human. Even if the human has the power to rival a superior demon, or even more powerful, Riser will not lose. It was because of this that the Gimli family immediately agreed to the bet between Noah and Riser. They were not worried that Riser would lose. Of course, an immortal body is not truly invincible. If you want to defeat an immortal phoenix, there are still ways. Lia sighed. After all, even if the body is immortal, the heart and spirit cannot be immortal. As long as you can defeat Phoenix's spirit, you can win. Then their regeneration will stop and they will fall. So if you want to defeat Phoenix, you either need to have absolute power to overwhelm your opponent and cause his spirit to collapse, or you need to be more resilient than your opponent and continuously defeat your opponent. You need to exhaust your opponent's spirit by defeating him again and again. Tatsunai Himishima also sighed. Of course, if you have the power to rival a god or a demon king, then it is undoubtedly the easiest to defeat the opponent's body and spirit in one fell swoop. In the demon world, all demons were divided into 5 levels. From lowest to highest, they were lesser demon, intermediate demon, superior demon, and demon king. Whether it was Lia, Kana, or Riser, they were all superior demons. So if you want to crush a superior demon, you have to at least have the power of a superior demon. If one wanted to defeat the opponent again and again and exhaust the mental strength of a superior phoenix demon, in addition to having strong endurance and tenacity, and the ability to fight continuously, one had to be at least a superior demon in terms of strength. As for having the power to rival a god or a demon king, that level of strength could defeat a phoenix's body and spirit in an instant, right? No matter which one it was, the Gimli family and the Phoenix family did not think that Noah could have it. So in the face of a bet that they could not lose, who would disagree? Even if that's the case, are you still going to fulfill your end of the bet? Lia stared at Noah with a serious expression. Maybe you will be killed by Riser. Hearing that, Noah laughed. His laugh was unusually disdainful. To all of you, the immortal body may be very powerful. Unfortunately, I face many such enemies, and they are much more difficult to deal with than Rissel or whatever. Noah finished the tea in his cup in one gulp, stood up and looked at Lias. Crushing the opponent with absolute power? Exhausting the opponent with unmatched endurance? Crushing the opponent with the power to rival a god or a demon king? No, there is no need to go through so much trouble. Noah turned around, waved at Lia and Jurai Himishima, and walked out of the supernatural research department. Anyway, just wait and see. After saying that, Noah left without looking back. Lia, Jurai Himishima said, is this really okay? There is nothing okay about it. Leah kept looking at the direction where Noah left. I can only choose to believe in Master. Chapter 606. Eulifia and Riesel came to the Supernatural Research Department in the morning to look for Liesel. There were no classes in Chariot King Academy at that time, so everyone could gather in the department. After Eulifia and Riesel left the Paranormal Research Department, Aisha and Little Kitten left because they had classes to attend. Only Lias and Junai stayed behind after applying for leave. Therefore, when Noah came out of the Paranormal Research Department, there was no one by his side. However, when Noah left the Supernatural Research Department, he met someone on his way to the school dormitory. At the sight of the girl leaning against the trunk of a tree beside School Avenue, as if she was waiting for someone, Noah stopped and raised his eyebrows slightly with a spurious smile. The president of the student council is skipping class at this time. How rare. That person was none other than Song Na. That's why I didn't even bring Zhuangji. Song Na, who was leaning against the tree as if she was taking a nap, gently opened her eyes and looked straight at Noah through her bright glasses. Her expression was as serious and cold as ever. I've heard about it. Teacher, are you really going to challenge the young master of the Phoenix family? Since you've heard about it, it can't be fake, right? Noah shook his head with a chuckle under Song Na's gaze. What? Do you also think that I'm overestimating myself by challenging that firebird? No, I don't think so. Song Na directly denied it. Unlike Riesel, I know that teacher's strength is not inferior to a superior demon's. In fact, his true strength might even be above that of a superior demon's. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have that level of magic power and deal with 4 fallen angels in one go. Song Na's words confused Noah. Then you're not here to give me some advice or something? Since Lias didn't object to the bet between teacher and Riesel, then I have nothing to say as an outsider. I'm just here to say something. Song Na pushed her glasses up and walked up to Noah. In the next second, under Noah's astonished gaze, Song Na bowed deeply to Noah, performing the most profound etiquette he had ever performed. I'm counting on you, teacher. Noah couldn't help but stare at Song Na, who was bowing to him. The surprise on his face was slowly replaced by a knowing smile. Although the Kana Noah knew wasn't really cold. As the next head of the Seedy family, this pure-blooded superior demon also had a cold side to him. In the past, Song Na had been polite to Noah, but that was only to the extent of politeness. He had never bowed to Noah so sincerely like today. That was all for Leah's sake. For his childhood sweetheart. So Noah reached out his hand and patted Song Na's head. Just leave it to me. Upon hearing that, Song Na straightened her body and did not reject Noah's intimate touch. Her cold face relaxed a lot in an instant. That night, Noah, who was going to cook, was stopped by Aisha and Kitten when he came out of the bathroom. Upon a closer look, both Aisha and Little Kitten were wearing an apron in addition to their uniforms. Noah, who had never seen such attire before, was more or less surprised. What's wrong with you two? Aisha and Little Kitten looked at each other, nodded firmly, and each grabbed one of Noah's hands. Teacher, please come over here. Then Aisha and Little Kitten dragged Noah to the small round table in the room and sat down. It was only then that Noah noticed. The table was filled with dishes. Looking at the dishes that filled the entire table, Noah was stunned. He asked with uncertainty and hesitation. Did you guys make this? Yes. Aisha, who was wearing an apron, smiled shyly. I discussed with Little Kitten, and we both felt that we should prepare for teacher. Although it's just according to the book, it should be edible, right? While saying that, Aisha's tone was full of uncertainty, as if she did not have much confidence. She did not know if she had tried it before, which made Noah speechless. Why do you suddenly want to cook for me? Teacher, you're going to fight Phoenix tomorrow, right? Little Kitten, who was also wearing an apron, spoke to Noah in a rare gentle tone. So Aisha and I will cook today. Teacher, please defeat Phoenix tomorrow and help the minister cancel the engagement. You two. Noah smiled bitterly. And here I was wondering why you two became so diligent and kind. So, it's not for me, but for Leah? No. It's not like that. Aisha immediately shook her head. If you like it, teacher, I'll make it in the future. Please leave it to me. Compared to Aisha, little kitten seemed a little less enthusiastic. I'll think about it. Gosh, I've been doting on you for so long. Noah rolled his eyes and picked up the chopsticks. This is a rare opportunity. I'll try the dishes you two made. Aisha and little kitten smiled and sat down at the same time. Before dinner, Aisha held her hand as if she was praying, closed her eyes, and said sincerely to Noah, "Teacher, I'll leave Senior Leah to you." Little kitten also lowered her head at Noah. "I'll leave it to you." Noah smiled and reached out his hand to pat Aisha and little kitten's heads, just like how he faced Song Na in the morning. "Just leave it to me." Seeing that Aisha and little kitten were relieved, Noah turned and looked out the window as if he could see a certain red-haired young lady. Even without Gemengli, there were still people who knew about Lias. Whether it was Song Na, Aisha, or little kitten, these girls did not come to Noah because of Gimli. Instead, they bowed their heads to Noah because of Leah. You should know, right? Leah. And just like that, the night passed. The next day was one of the weekends in Hoboy Academy. Of course, there was no one in Hoboy Academy today. Zhu Nai and Kitten just stared in the direction of the magic array and remained silent. Only Lias had one of her hands in front of her, and there was no telling what she was thinking. Chapter 607. After entering the magic array, Noah clearly felt as if his body had been teleported to another place. First, his vision blurred, and he lost the feeling of his feet touching the ground. After a while, his vision and the feeling of being on solid ground returned to his body. When he opened his eyes, Noah immediately realized that he was on Colt King Academy's avenue. Ahead was the school building. Behind him was the school gate. There was not a single person's presence around. It was eerily quiet. The strangest thing was the sky and the scenery outside the academy. The sky of Colt King Academy wasn't blue or white. Instead, it was like the surface of a lake, constantly fluctuating with a myriad of colors. Apart from the sky, the space outside the school gate was also fluctuating with a myriad of colors. It told Noah that this was no longer the Colt King Academy. Eulifia had said that this Colt King Academy was a replica of the one she had prepared in the alternate dimension. In other words, not only had Noah left the human world, everything before him wasn't the original Colt King Academy. Undoubtedly, the bet was made yesterday, and a replica of Colt King Academy was prepared in another dimension today. The demon's technology was beyond Noah's imagination. But that was fine too. At the very least, I don't need to worry that I'll be like before, causing huge damage to the real world if I'm not careful. After muttering those words, Noah's lips curled as he looked up at the school building. Inside the school building, a figure slowly walked out of it, crossed the gate of the school building, stepped into the avenue of the school, and appeared in front of Noah. To be honest, I have to thank you for this. Saying this, Reeser put his hands in his pockets and strode out of the school dormitory like a ruffian leader. He seemed to be in a good mood as he grinned. His gaze was as vicious as ever. If you didn't propose this bet, even the Gimli family and the Phoenix family wouldn't be able to do anything about it. I wouldn't have attacked her directly either. Now with this bet, she finally compromised. You've done a good deed, human. Rissel stopped about 10 meters away from Noah and opened his arms to Noah. Don't look at me like this. I'm a person who knows how to repay favors. I'll be merciful and try not to kill you, human. However, Noah did not retaliate like he did yesterday in the face of Rissel's playful actions, nor did he show any response. The expression on his face became calmer and calmer, and even his gaze became calm. His entire body emitted a tranquil aura. This appearance made Rissel's playful actions seem to have hit thin air. He did not use any strength at all. His originally good mood instantly turned bad, causing him to click his tongue. I'd like to see how long you can keep up this pretense. At this point, Rissel seemed to have thought of a good idea and suddenly smiled. Oh right, this is a rare opportunity. I'll introduce my servants to you. After saying that, Rizzle extended his hand and snapped his fingers. Bang! A burst of surging flames immediately erupted from behind Rizzle. Like a whirlpool, it spread in all directions and instantly covered the entire space behind Rizzle. Immediately after, figures of varying heights quietly emerged from the surging flames and imprinted themselves into Noah's eyes. It was a small team of about 15 people. The team members were all females below the age of 25. Some were wearing armor, some were wearing tights, and some were even wearing cheongsams, kimonos, or gymnastics clothes. They were of different heights and looked very messy, but at the same time, they gave off a sense of order. Among these females, there were 2 leaders. One of them was a young girl who was about 14 or 15 years old. Her long blonde hair was tied into a drill-shaped double ponytail, and she was wearing a formal dress. The other was a female who wore a mage's outfit and held a long staff in her hand. She looked like an older sister. This group of women dressed in strange clothing, each with their own unique characteristics, but all with the same appearance, appeared in the center of the surging flames behind Rizer. As the flames dissipated, they walked forward one after another, arriving beside Rizer and looking at Noah with all sorts of gazes. Among these gazes, there was curiosity, mockery, judgment, and disdain. But without exception, all of them had a relaxed expression. Obviously, these girls knew that Noah was about to challenge their master. However, these girls did not think that Noah could win. That was why each of them behaved like this. Unlike Leah's, I'm an adult superior demon. The number of my kin is also the highest, 15. Unlike Leah's, who doesn't even have a full set of kin, Rizel reached out his hand and hugged the 2 women closest to him, as though he wanted to show off his superiority. He then looked at Noah with a mocking gaze. By the way, let me tell you something. Before you fight me, you have to play with my family members first. You can only fight me after you defeat them. As soon as he said that, the females standing beside Rizel immediately looked at Noah with an amused expression. Noah did not know what Rizel was thinking. But there was no doubt that Rizel had broken the rules. As the judge of this bet, Gulifia should have come out to stop it. However, before the time could come, Noah's expression was still calm as he said, "That's right. Can I ask you a question?" "Why? Do you want to know why I'm doing this?" Rizel spread his hands as though he was helpless. "Of course, it's because of the quality. I'm a pure-blooded superior demon, and you're just a human. If I were to fight with you casually, it would be lowering my quality. So if you can't even defeat my kin, then you don't have the right to fight with me." Rizel continued to speak, but before he could finish, Noah interrupted his performance. "I heard that if angels have evil thoughts that they shouldn't have, they will fall and become fallen angels. Is that right?" Rizel was stunned, and so were his subordinates. And Noah's next question stunned everyone who was peeking into this alternate space. "Then, do you know what gods become after they fall?" Not to mention Rizel. Even those who heard Noah's words were confused by this question. Gods fall. Gods fall? You haven't even heard of it, right? If you don't know, then let me tell you, Noah said calmly. After the fall of the gods, they are known as the god of disobedience. It is a type of god that goes against the myths, and will only bring disaster to the human world. Therefore, if there is a human who can kill such a god in an impossible miracle, then they will obtain the power from the gods, exercise the authority of the gods, and become the god slayer. The moment Noah's words subsided, he turned his gaze to Rizel. "I am a god slayer." The moment those words reverberated in the entire alternate space, without giving anyone time to react, a monstrous and terrifying wave of mana erupted like a volcano with Noah's body as the center, and exploded in all directions like a sudden surge of stormy waves. "For victory, quickly come before me. Undying sun, please bestow upon me a shining steed, a spirited steed. Bring me the light wheel that symbolizes your Lord." The stone plate that had been silent in Noah's heart for a long time suddenly lit up. It suddenly turned and pointed to the outline of a spirited white steed. Then the sky lit up. A sun gradually rose in the sky that was constantly rippling like a lake. "I wonder, if the immortal firebird phoenix or the flames from the sun, who is stronger? Come and try." As if in response to this casual voice that seemed to come from the horizon, A spirited white steed appeared from the rising sun in the east. Nay, accompanied by an earth-shattering neigh, a line of fire descended from the sky. Chapter 608. Neigh. The neighing of the horses seemed to originate from the center of the entire space, reverberating like sound waves in every corner of the alternate space, and entering the hearts of those who were peeking at the situation in the alternate space. Under the rising sun in the murky sky, a white horse carrying a monstrous golden flame silently streaked across the void and descended from the sky. Wherever it passed, the entire space became turbulent. Even the temperature in the air suddenly soared up, like a line of fire descending. In just 2 or 3 seconds, the white horse with its monstrous golden flames had reduced the distance between the sun in the sky and Full King Academy on the ground to 0. Then, it landed in Full King Academy like a meteor. Boom! A completely uncontrollable and earth-shattering explosion erupted in the entire alternate space. Kaboom! Terrifying golden flames spread out from the center of the Full King Academy, as if they were about to destroy the heavens and the earth. Ripples spread through the entire alternate dimension as they spread out in all directions. Boom! Before the terrifying flames could reach them, the largest building in Full King Academy exploded into pieces under the impact of the ripples in the dimension. Whoosh! The monstrous flames of the sun exploded in Full King Academy like a wave of fire, engulfing the entire dimension and covering the entire academy. In an instant, the temperature of the world rose to a terrifying level. Sizzle! Amidst the bone-chilling sounds of melting, the buildings in Full King Academy melted like butter under the scorching heat of the sun at a speed visible to the naked eye. Those who weren't in this strange space couldn't imagine how high the temperature here was. However, Eulefia did mention that anyone who was interested in the duel would be able to see the scene in the form of a spectator. Hence, be it Lias, Aisha, Jurai Himashima, and Kitten who were watching the duel in the Supernatural Research Department in the real world, or the nobles in the underworld who saw everything that happened in the alternate dimension. All of them were staring at the academy that was engulfed by the sun's flames, their faces filled with shock. In that instant, a sense of fear began to spread from the depths of the hearts of everyone who saw this scene. Meanwhile, in the Full King Academy in the other dimension, the golden flames were still surging violently in ripples. With Full King Academy as the center, the flames kept burning everything in the area, causing devastating damage to all the buildings. In such a hellish scene, Noah's body was also covered by the golden flames from the sun, but he was not burned like the surrounding environment. Instead, he seemed to be embraced. His clothes fluttered as though they were blown by the wind, and he was unscathed. Looking at the scene before him that was also covered in flames, Noah raised an eyebrow. Only to see the subordinates of Riser, who were supposed to be standing together in an imposing manner, were all slumped to the ground, their bodies covered in scorch marks. Their miserable and pathetic appearances no longer had any of their previous smugness and arrogance. Not far in front of these dependents, Riser's suit had almost been burned to ashes, leaving only tattered pieces of cloth. His face was pale and distorted. That was because the golden flames from the sun and the red flames from his body were burning at the same time on Rissel's body, clashing with each other, as if they were fighting for territory. Under such circumstances, Rissel felt as though he was being burned by 2 different types of flames as he let out miserable shrieks. Ouch! 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 With such a mournful scream, Riser frantically fled back and forth like a man on fire. Sometimes he would lie on the ground and constantly twist his body. Sometimes he would hold his head and scream in pain. The skin on his body had long been burned to the point of collapse, revealing the flesh underneath. It was incomparably terrifying. Leah said that to defeat an immortal like Phoenix, one would have to rely on absolute power to crush him, and another would have to rely on extreme endurance to wear him down over and over again. Otherwise, one would have to directly crush his opponent's body and mind with the power of a god or demon king. In fact, there was no need to go through all that trouble. Take Noah for example. He had 3 ways to defeat Phoenix directly. 1. One of the 3 major spells of the fairy tale. It can directly destroy the target's mind. It is a super spell known as a super trial spell, Fairy Law. As long as Noah used Fairy Law, this super spell that could directly target the opponent's spirit would instantly crush Phoenix. No matter how powerful his immortal body was, it would be useless. 2. Using one of the powers of the 10 Incarnations warrior. Noah already had a good understanding of Phoenix. The golden sword that could only be used in warrior form could be unsheathed at any time. As long as Noah used the sword that was specifically used against Phoenix, he could seal Phoenix's immortal body and kill him directly. 3. Using a power that could continuously maintain the effect of the attack on Phoenix. For example, curses, poisons, weakness, corrosion, and other attacks could continuously affect the opponent's body. Even if Phoenix's immortal body was activated, it could still continue to cause damage to the opponent and make him experience unimaginable pain until he collapsed. Now Noah was using the third method. Even if Rissel's body could regenerate, so what? As long as the flames of the white horse did not dissipate and kept burning, the consequences would be obvious just by looking at Rissel's face. Ah, it hurts. It hurts. Rissel was already lying on the ground, rolling back and forth as he tried to extinguish the flames on his body. All the flames that belonged to Phoenix were also burning on his body, as if he was trying to expel the flames of the white horse. Unfortunately, the flames from the sun, even the flames of the legendary immortal bird, were unable to expel them. Under this pain, Riser's entire body was practically twisted into a ball. As he rolled on the ground, tears flowed down his face where all of his skin was festering. With great difficulty, he reached out his hand towards Noah's direction. Spare me. At this moment, Rissel's body was constantly transitioning between the state of destruction and regeneration. The pain within was something that outsiders would not be able to understand. If this continued, Riesel would probably go insane from the constant burning pain. Wouldn't his mind completely collapse? Seeing that Rissel's body was no longer moving, and he was on the verge of death, Noah pursed his lips and walked forward. Just as Noah was in front of Rissel, a pair of hands suddenly hugged his leg. Noah frowned and looked down. When he saw the situation under his feet, he could not help but be stunned. The person hugging Noah's leg was the young lady who was wearing a formal dress and had drill-like twin ponytails. This young lady should be Rissel's family. However, the young lady's body was burning with the same flames as Rissel's. The flames that came from Phoenix. Perhaps because Noah did not specifically target her, the young lady's body was not burning with the flames of the white horse. However, her clothes were completely burned, revealing her smooth and delicate body. The reason why this delicate body was unscathed should be because Phoenix's immortal ability allowed the young lady's body to regenerate. Under such circumstances, the young lady hugged Noah's leg and begged, I beg you, let my brother go. Brother? Rissel was this young lady's brother? This young lady was also a member of the Phoenix family? At that moment, Noah glanced at the young lady and then looked at the dying Rissel. After a while he waved his hand. As if frozen in space, the golden flames that covered the entire alternate space froze. Then, like an illusion, all the flames dissipated, leaving behind only a dilapidated replica of the school. It disintegrated and melted like a ruin. Only then did Noah gently shake off the young lady's hand and turn around. Stop bothering Lias. Otherwise it won't be as simple as just a little pain next time. That one sentence caused the young lady to be in a daze, and she could not react for a long time. Chapter 609. And the final victor of this duel is Noah Doria. As Griefia's calm but slightly trembling voice echoed in the broken alternate dimension, a slowly spinning magic circle appeared beneath Noah's feet, turning him into a burst of starlight and vanishing from the alternate dimension. Teacher! Before he could open his eyes, Noah heard the surprised cries of a group of girls. Immediately, Aisha rushed in front of Noah for the first time, tightly holding Noah's hand, and said with a face full of excitement, Amazing! Teacher is amazing! It was not just Aisha. Even Junai and Kitten were looking at Noah with a hint of excitement. There was disbelief in their eyes that had yet to fade, and the way they looked at Noah had completely changed. Clearly, apart from the naive Aisha, everyone else was utterly shocked by Noah's power. Riaz stared straight at Noah and let out a bitter laugh in front of everyone. I knew you were hiding something, but I didn't expect you to hide it so well. Godslayer, is that real or fake? What? You don't want to believe it? Noah had already expected Riaz's reaction and smiled nonchalantly. Since there is the Longlness, a sacred gear, that allows ordinary humans to gain the power to fight against gods and demons, then it shouldn't be strange for there to be a God-slayer, like me, right? No. Even if the divine gear can give its user the power to fight against gods and demons, or even kill them, if the user can't develop the divine gear's power, it's just a treasure in vain. Riaz shook her head. However, Teacher is a God-slayer, who truly possesses the power to kill gods and demon kings. I believe that in the near future, Teacher will become a figure that demons, angels, and fallen angels will not be able to ignore, right? Apart from the paranormal research department, there were many who were watching the duel between Noah and Rissel from other places. At the very least, the Jamanli family and the Phoenix family were watching. And now Noah's identity as a God-slayer had been exposed. A human who could kill gods and usurp their power. News of such an existence would spread to the three factions of demons, angels, and fallen angels sooner or later. That was why only Riaz and the others knew what kind of commotion this man would cause to the three factions in the future. Noah, of course, knew what kind of commotion he would cause if he revealed his true power. That was why Noah chose to use his authority, without hesitation, to defeat Rissel in one fell swoop, and show his strength. In this way, even if the Jamanli family and the Phoenix family had any resentment towards Noah for ruining the marriage between the two families, they would have to consider whether they had enough power to cause trouble for Noah. Noah did not want to have any more flies in his life in the future. This method was killing two birds with one stone. Immediately, Noah turned his gaze to Isha, who was holding his hand tightly, and after hesitating for a moment he asked, "Does Isha think it's okay to stay with a God-slayer like me?" Everyone, including Isha, was taken aback by Noah's words. However, they quickly regained their senses. Isha was a nun who had an extremely devout faith in the so-called gods. After knowing that Noah was a God-slayer, it was hard to guarantee that she would dislike Noah. That was the only thing Noah was worried about. Yes, Sensei is a God-slayer. A sinner who killed a god. Isha seemed to have only just realized what was going on. After panicking for a while, she smiled in confusion. It's okay, Sensei. Even if Sensei has heretical powers and became a sinner who killed a god, the Lord will still forgive a kind-hearted Sensei. Hearing this, not to mention Noah, even Leah's Himashima Jurai kitten, and the others became a little powerless. However, this wasn't anything strange. After all, Isha was more kind-hearted than anyone else. Even if the entire church viewed her as a hateful witch and banished her, and even a fallen angel like Laneri had designs on her, she wouldn't resent anyone. To Isha, Noah was like a sinner who had committed a sin. As long as she prayed sincerely, she would definitely be forgiven and redeemed, right? Seriously, I have to hand it to this girl. Asterisk clang. Asterisk at this moment. The magic circle carved on the ground in the supernatural research department suddenly bloomed with a blinding light, and began to spin. Seeing this, Leah's Himashima Jurai and kitten tensed up. Isha, on the other hand, instinctively hid behind Noah. She did not have any intention of rejecting Noah at all. As for Noah, his eyes slowly focused as he looked at the spinning magic circle. This was because an unfathomable aura was gradually appearing in the center of the circle. That aura was already comparable to the average Godslayer and God of Disobedience. No, it might even be stronger than the average Godslayer and God of Disobedience. It was almost at the level of veteran Godslayers and God of Disobedience, like Luo Hao and Warban. Moreover, that was not the limit. It was clearly holding back. Noah's heart was immediately stirred. He focused all his attention and stared at the magic circle. There, two figures appeared in the light of the magic circle. One of them was Gilifia. In front of Gilifia, a man with shoulder-length red hair looked up and met Noah's eyes. The unfathomable aura that Noah sensed came from the red-haired man in front of him. Seeing this red-haired man, apart from Noah and Aisha, Himashima, Junai, and Kitten all showed a surprised expression. Even Leah was shocked and cried out, Brother? Big brother? Noah was stunned for a moment, and then he remembered. If the man in front of him was Leah's brother, then his identity was obvious. Because Leah's was the sister of the demon king Lucifer. In other words, the man in front of him was the current demon king Sarzax Lucifer. Yo Leah's. Sarzax greeted her with a smile. Long time no see. Looks like you've suffered a lot. Who's to blame for that? Leah's glared at Sarzax angrily. If father and brother didn't make that engagement without permission, I wouldn't have suffered so much. Well, I admit that both father and I were too impatient. But there's nothing we can do about it. Who told us to save so few heirs? Sarzax did not have the majesty of a demon king at all. Instead, he was like a big brother next door as he shrugged at Leah's. But it's useless to say so much now. Your engagement can't be fulfilled, can it? Leah's tilted her head at Sarzax's words. Then, she seemed to have thought of something as her expression brightened. The family has agreed to my engagement with Rissel? What can they do if they don't? Everyone knows about the bet for this duel, don't they? Sarzax smiled bitterly and turned to meet Noah's gaze again, his eyes narrowing. You've even asked for the help of a being who killed a god. Anyone who doesn't agree to your engagement would probably have to worry if this godslayer would come knocking on their door, right? Hearing that, everyone understood why Sarzax had come here specifically. Clearly, Sarzax had come for Noah, the godslayer. You're the current demon king Lucifer, aren't you? Noah looked straight at Sarzax and smiled indifferently. I've heard a lot about you. It's just my duty. I'm not that famous. Sarzax shook his head with a soft smile. On the other hand, it's you who have such amazing power and battle records. It's really rude that we've never even heard of you before. It's my honor to be praised by your highness, Noah said perfunctorily, and then went straight to the point. Your highness, you must have come here specifically for me, right? Yes. Sarzax nodded quickly. Then he said something like this. I just wanted to ask, when do you plan to marry Leah's? Chapter 6:10. Noah, who originally thought that Sazek was here to test him, was stunned when he saw Sazek looking at him with a smile on his face. Noah had a guess as to why Lucifer, one of the 4 demon kings, would come at this time. That was to test the identity of the godslayer. There was no doubt that there was no such thing as a god of disobedience in this world. And there was certainly no such thing as a godslayer, after killing a god of disobedience and usurping his power. Therefore, Noah's statement, needless to say, was bound to arouse everyone's suspicion. However, the power that Noah showed, the ability to summon even the sun, was believed to be a miracle that only a god could do. In this way, Noah's words were persuasive. Noah had long expected that those who doubted his identity as a godslayer, or whether Noah had really killed a god, would come to Noah by all means to test him and find out the truth. Noah thought that Sazek had come for this. Who knew that as soon as he appeared, he would say something that left Noah at a loss for words. Wed. Leah's was also stunned. Isha let out a series of confused sounds. Era. Jurai Himashima held one side of her face and smiled with great interest. As for Kitten, she was also stunned for a moment. She looked at Noah with a trace of blame in her eyes. Sazek, who did not understand why everyone was behaving like this, tilted his head. What? Is there a problem with what I said? There is a big problem. Noah finally reacted. He no longer had his initial wariness of Sazek's unfathomable strength and purpose of coming here. Only suspicion was left. Why did it suddenly become that I need to marry Leah's? That's right, brother. Leah's also reacted. After glancing at Noah, she frowned and looked at Sazek with a displeased expression. Don't tell me, brother, you're going to make me marry my mentor without permission this time? This time, it was Sazek's turn to be stunned. But Leah's, didn't you already agree? I agree. Once again Leah's was shocked. When did I agree? But Eulifia said that you didn't object to His Excellency Noah's bet with Rizzle, right? Sazek scratched his head. Isn't that proof that you've already agreed? What do you mean by that? Noah, who was even more puzzled, asked. Why does Riaz agreeing to my bet with Rizzle mean that she's agreeing to marry me? Why do you think? Sazek opened his mouth blankly and said something that no one could refute. Weren't you the one who made the bet that if you won against Rizzle, Rizzle's fiancé would be yours? The entire place fell silent. Because you're unhappy that your lover is engaged to someone else, you made the bet with Rizzle as a human. You also decided that the winner would get Leah's, and Leah's herself didn't object to the bet. Sazek blinked and said with a half-smile. That's something that every noble who knows about Leah's engagement knows about, isn't it? Not only was it not. That was a huge misunderstanding. Noah said that just to provoke Rizzle and get him to agree to his bet and help Leah's solve the problem. The reason why Leah's agreed to the bet was not because she would be with Noah if he won, but because she believed that Noah was right. If she didn't make a decision here, there was no point in continuing the stalemate. In other words, no matter who it was, they didn't take the bet after Noah won seriously. That was because Jurai, Kitten, Aisha, and even Songna knew that Noah only wanted to help Leah's, and that was why he made the bet. In the end, none of the people involved cared about that statement. Instead, it was the bystanders who took it seriously, and even came up with a ridiculous reason for the bet. At first, we didn't think that a human would win against the immortal phoenix, which was why we agreed to the bet in a hurry. Now that His Excellency Noah has won, and so many people have witnessed it, we naturally have to fulfill the bet. Sazak must have realized that it was a misunderstanding from the reaction of Noah and the others. However, Sazak had no intention of resolving the misunderstanding at all. He just kept smiling. Although it's a pity that the opponent isn't a pure-blooded demon, we didn't come for the pure-blooded demon's offspring in the first place. We just hope that the Gimli family can have a new generation, so it doesn't matter. Not to mention, even if His Excellency Noah is just a human, he is a godslayer himself. If Leah's could give birth to a godslayer descendant, perhaps the child could inherit his father's talent. It couldn't be better. Wait. Noah quickly spoke up to stop Sazak from continuing. After adjusting his breathing, he rubbed the space between his eyebrows. Is it okay if I call you Sazak? Of course. Sazak nodded without hesitation. Although your class is a demon king, you are also someone who can slay gods. There's no need to hesitate. Just call me by my name. Well, Sazak, I know it's useless to explain anything now. After all, I did mention such a bet, but please allow me to apologize because I have a serious problem on my side. Noah bluntly gave the most convincing reason. Let's not talk about other things first. I already have fiancés and 2 of them. A single sentence from Kieran sent the whole paranormal research department into silence again. Leah's, who knew beforehand that Noah had 2 fiancés, did not think much of it. However, Jurai Himajima, Aisha Kitten, and the others could not help but become restless. Teacher Noah. Tears welled up in Aisha's eyes as she looked at Noah, as if her beloved family member had been snatched away from her. You already have 2 fiancés? Era. Jurai Himajima pursed her lips, smiling delightfully yet reservedly. I didn't expect you to have 2 fiancés, sensei. I've underestimated you. So you're that kind of person? Kitten spat at Noah with a look of disdain. So lame. Even though I already knew about it, I still find it weird when I hear it again. Leah sighed and rolled her eyes. Sensei, you're too unprincipled. The girl's words were like daggers stabbing into Noah's heart. Noah's face fell, and he forced himself to remain calm. Anyway, I already have a fiancé. My engagement with Leah shouldn't be valid anymore, right? Sazak and Eulifia looked at each other, before turning their puzzled gazes at Noah. Well, since you already have 2 fiancés, it shouldn't be a problem to have 1 more, right? You really think that's fine? Before the others could react to Sazak's words, Noah could not help raising his voice. Your sister is the apple of the Gimli family's eye, the next head of the family, the true ruler of the nobles. Are you really willing to let her marry a man with a wife just for a descendant? A man should have more wives if he has the ability. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Sazax replied. Moreover, so many nobles have witnessed the entire process of your bet. How could it be cancelled just because you have a fiancé? No. That's not right, is it? Usually, shouldn't it be cancelled because you have a fiancé? Liaz, we can't let you go back on your word this time. Sazax looked directly at Liaz and said with a smile. If you go back on your word, we'll have to let you marry Rizzle. I don't want to, she answered almost instinctively without even thinking about it. Instead of marrying Rizzle, I'd rather marry Sensei Noah. Sazax laughed at that. Noah covered his face, unable to watch anymore. Chapter 6:11. And in the end, you had no choice but to compromise temporarily and agree to that marriage contract that appeared out of nowhere. In the infirmary of Chariot King Academy, Noah received a visit from the president of the student council, Song Na. Song Na, who entered the infirmary almost at the same time as Riaz, took off his spectacles as soon as he appeared, and spoke as if he couldn't bear it any longer. This way, it's just a change of betrothal partner. You didn't even get rid of the Gimli's request, did you, Riaz? Riaz, who was leaning against the wall, sighed loudly and couldn't help but complain. Whether it's father or brother, they're all overly worried. Doesn't this make it seem like I can't get married? I've never met your father, but your brother really looks like he can't wait to marry you off. Noah, who was sitting at the desk, rested his face on one hand and rolled his eyes at Riaz. I've seen people who are anxious to have grandchildren, but never to this extent. Is your family's situation really that bad, Riaz? The reason why the Gimingli family was so anxious to marry Liaz off wasn't because they didn't love her. It was just that the Gimingli family really needed a new generation to fill their ranks. The current head of the Gimli family only had a son and a daughter. The son, Sazax, had already become the Demon King, and could no longer inherit the Gimli family. As the daughter, Riaz naturally had to shoulder the responsibility of inheriting the family. That way, if Riaz really died in an accident, the Gimli family would really have no successor, and could only be cut off from the family. Under such circumstances, it was no wonder the Gimli family was so anxious to marry Riaz off, so that she could give birth to the Gimli family's bloodline. However, Noah really didn't expect that such a glorious task would fall on his shoulders in the end. It really made him want to laugh, but he couldn't cry. He almost broke down. Riaz naturally understood that Noah's heart was actually breaking down, and that made her sigh loudly again. Actually, brother, Sazax Lucifer already has a son. Father is planning to make him the next head of the Gimli family. Noah couldn't help but be stunned when he heard this, and he spoke with bewilderment. If that's the case, why are you in such a hurry to have another child? Even with the presence of Lord Sazax's son, the Gimli family's situation didn't improve much. Be it Liaz or Lord Sazax's son, it would be a huge blow to the Gimli family if anything were to happen to either of them. Kanna put on her spectacles that she had just finished wiping and glanced at Liaz. Moreover, among the demons, there seems to be a group of supporters who intend to support Lord Sazax's son to be the next Lucifer. If Lord Sazax steps down before his son inherits the Gimli family, then his son should become the next Lucifer. That way, he wouldn't be able to inherit the Gimli family, right? Speaking of which, I have to mention the current situation of the demon world. In the war between the demons, angels, and fallen angels, the 4 great demon kings who originally ruled the entire demon world had actually died on the battlefield along with most of the pure-blooded demons who could be called the 72 pillars. And without the demon kings, the demon world was basically unable to function. Therefore, among the remaining 72 pillars of demons, the 4 who stood at the top of all demons with Sazax as the leader stood up and inherited the position of the 4 great demon kings. That was why Sazax called himself Lucifer, only because it was his duty. Because the surnames of the 4 great demon kings now no longer represented bloodline and family background, but the position of demon king. This was also the reason why Sazax, who was born in the Gimli family, changed his surname to Lucifer. And just like Sazax, if his son was elected as the next Lucifer and became the Demon King, then he would naturally not be able to inherit the Gimli family. As expected, being born into a good family is different. For the rest of your life, if you're not the head of a noble family, then you're directly the Demon King. Sazax's son is quite lucky, Noah said helplessly. I'm rather puzzled. Undoubtedly, the Gimli family knew how important Leah's is, yet they still dared to leave her alone in this academy. Aren't they afraid of being slaughtered? Leah's Gimli won't die so easily. Leah's raised an eyebrow and looked at Noah somewhat provocatively. Even if I'm not as powerful as the so-called Godslayer, I'm still a pure-blooded superior demon. If he wants me dead, in the name of the Gimli family, I'll definitely send him flying. Moreover, that Godslayer is now in this academy, and has even become the betrothed of the next head of the Gimli family. He won't die so easily. Song Na could not help but show a faint smile. Come to think of it, Teacher and Leah's engagement is actually quite good. Well, rather than marrying Rissel, I'd rather marry Teacher. That's the truth. Leah's flashed a beautiful smile at Noah. Teacher, please protect me as the betrothed. Don't be too happy yet. It's just that I don't have a way out of this, and I'm the one who proposed the bet. With so many witnesses, it would be hard for you to reject it directly. That's why I'm temporarily compromising. Compared to Leah's, who spoke passionately, Noah's performance was a little cold. I still have 2 fiancés here. Before I figure out how to explain things to them, please don't consider yourself my betrothed. Just as Lias was about to say something else, Song Na interrupted with a serious look on her face. Indeed, it's still a little early to talk about marriage. Before that, we have to pay attention to another more serious problem. More serious problem? Noah and Leah's looked at each other before turning their eyes to Song Na. What problem? Under the gaze of Noah and Leah's, Song Na pushed up his glasses and said so expressionlessly, Teacher, you should know that although the demons, angels, and fallen angels are in a temporary truce, it's just a truce. The peace between them is barely maintained, and war could break out again at any time, right? Noah nodded immediately. The demons, angels, and fallen angels were at war with each other all year round, to the point where all of them were severely injured. They had no choice but to temporarily stop fighting and recuperate to avoid being dragged down by the war. In other words, the 3 major forces were forced into a temporary truce. Neither victory nor defeat had been decided, and neither had a peace treaty been concluded. Just like reorganizing their military forces, it was possible for another war to break out at any time. Teacher, you probably don't know, right? Song Na narrowed his eyes slightly. In the past, when the 3 major forces were still at war, 2 dragons once fought on the battlefield. 2 dragons? Noah's heart skipped a beat. Leah's expression became serious as she looked at Song Na. You're talking about the 2 dragons that were almost at the top of all the dragons, the twin sky dragons, right? They were called sky dragons, a level higher than the so-called dragon kings. Their strength was comparable to the gods, and they were existences that every faction feared. Song Na looked straight at Noah. When 2 dragons with such power fought on the battlefield, the impact was so great that even the 3 major forces could not ignore it. So, with the gods and the Demon King as the leaders, the 3 major forces temporarily stopped fighting at that time. Noah vaguely understood what Song Na meant. In the end, the twin sky dragon's body was directly cut into pieces by the 3 major forces, and its soul was turned into a sacred gear. It became 2 of the 13 known Longlness, and was sealed into a human's body. Leah's recalled the story she had heard before. After that, the 3 major forces started fighting again, right? A power that could rival the gods and the Demon King is too sensitive for the 3 major forces. Song Na said to Noah with an extremely serious expression. Great power is often accompanied by endless disputes. Teacher Noah, you have to be careful. For the 3 major forces now, perhaps you have become an unstable factor that could trigger another war. Soon, all kinds of people will be attracted by your god-slaying power. Noah's eyes flashed as he pondered. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.